So everything along the way is predestined.
It's like Russell Wilson when he threw that pick at the 2-yard line.
Yeah,
immediately he was like, God
Yeah.
destined that to happen.
Yeah.
So it's okay. I'll live.
That started with the decision not to give the ball to Marshawn.
Right.
Yeah.
We all know that.
Which was predestined too, yeah.
Welcome back to Macrodosing. It is Thursday. It's July 18th, and we got the whole squad. Arian's back. We got Big T. Chaps is going to join us in a little bit. We got Mad Dog McKenzie. Dan McClellan, Bible scholar, will be joining us. We're going to talk about some of the lesser-known stories in the Bible and his particular point of view. Talking about the Bible and all the crazy stories in there, and his experience learning, being a scholar, and podcasting about religion. All right, we're back. Arian, we missed you on Tuesday's show. Some crazy stuff happened, so I guess we can just get into it right off the bat.
Where were you?
Wild weekend.
People are asking.
Everyone wants to know where Arian Foster was on Saturday.
I ain't shoot that motherfucker. That's usually what me care. Did they catch him? They caught Buddy. They were dead.
They
they
killed
caught
him half a second.
I was
after.
actually I was at medieval times in Orlando when he got shot. And so it was at the last little part where they're like dueling it out to see who wins. And I got an update from one of the YouTube channels I follow. It said, breaking, Trump has been shot. And I was like, what? So I clicked on it and I clicked on Twitter because that's where news happens fastest. And god damn, that's crazy.
Yeah. Medieval times is a wild place to find out that Trump has been shot. The highest of highs to the lowest of lows.
We didn't really talk about this, but it was a very, like, one of the more surreal pieces of news I've ever been delivered when I first saw it.
Yeah.
It was in my Vols group chat, and somebody said, "Did Trump just get shot?" And I was like, "What?" So I turned on the news, and it was like, and then it looked like, oh, maybe they didn't get him. And then you see, no, they got him.
So did you get to break the news to anybody, or you just had it broken to you?
Yeah, my parents. My mom texted me, what's the name of the show? She texted Presumed Innocent on Apple TV is good.
It is good.
And I FaceTimed her. I've since watched it. It's a good show. And I FaceTimed her. I said, they just shot Trump and you're watching Apple TV? And she goes, what? And I was like, turn on the news.
That's so funny.
I was all in her own little world.
Yeah, it'd probably been 2 hours.
2 hours and she didn't know?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's actually the way to go. That's how news didn't used to break until the next newspaper got printed the next day. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm okay with that way of life.
Like when Kennedy got shot, people were going around for the rest of their day running errands and telling people that they would just run into.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I told the cashier at the hardware store about Kennedy.
Yeah.
My great grandma told me that when Pearl Harbor happened, her parents heard about it on the radio, but didn't tell the kids. And so she went to school. I believe it happened on a Sunday. And she went to school on Monday not knowing that it had happened. And then everybody was talking about it and she didn't know.
That's crazy to find out, like, from your classmates.
Yeah.
After a long weekend. I mean, there were some soldiers in Japan in World War II that just stayed in the jungle and didn't know that the war had ended for years, decades, I think.
Yeah.
I think there were a couple guys that were out there for like 20 years.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, imagine, like, who do you think is what celebrity do you think has the highest chance of still not knowing about Trump?
I think Kendrick.
No, he knows.
Kendrick, dog. Kendrick, or somebody who be off the grid, Denzel. But I got a theory. Motherfuckers that don't be on social media, don't post, they low key on it the most. Like Jay-Z, you know what I mean? Denzel, these cats, they be on it the most. Because they know what's going on. They're always aware, but they just don't ever comment, which I can respect. But they be on it. They be knowing.
It's probably smart. Probably smart if you're at the Denzel level to not have to comment about everything. Not make any misstatements.
He's done it right, man. Denzel is like, if you look at like the juxtaposition between Denzel and Will Smith, like both iconic figures, and Will's still iconic, but it's like because you see him so much because he's on Instagram and stuff, kind of losing his prestige a little bit, you know? Whereas Denzel,
Oversaturated.
he's still a unicorn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because there's two different types of celebrities in that way. The ones that they come up like mainstream, and you kind of cheapen your brand if you post too much on social media. You're giving away the milk for free when people don't have to buy the cow. Or then there's the people that come up on social media, so they have to keep staying. You can't like go the other way around and stop posting.
That's true.
If you're born on the internet streets.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So it was a crazy weekend. About 2 inches away from Trump's head getting exploded with a picture that was taken in real time of the bullet passing through. So he's relatively safe. I think we were talking about the rumor that maybe there was a glass shard that hit him. I've seen almost no more reporting of the glass shard.
Yeah, that went away quickly.
Since TMZ. I think we can say it's probably a bullet that hit him. Definitely a bullet.
He got.
He got, and the kid is still dead to this point, and we're finding out like a slow trickle of news about him. I read something that he carried a ladder for a mile from Home Depot. He bought the ladder, had the gun, and then walked a mile to this shed, got on the top of the building, and then was up there for
which
a long
apparently
time.
had Secret Service snipers inside of it,
but
not
on
on top because of the sloped roof.
So he hacked a building.
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
Crazy.
By putting a ladder up next to it. So we still don't know too much about the kid that got shot, that shot Trump. We've heard like a couple things from some of his classmates, but it's probably going to be a while before we hear any, like big news about it.
Have you seen the video where someone like 3D mapped Trump's head and has it tracked as the shot comes, and he turns it just as it comes and hits his ear?
Yeah.
Yeah, his quirky little movements when he talks saved his life.
He turned around to look at his immigration chart.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, he was showing. He had a big thing up on the screen of like
Be
illegal
thankful,
immigration was
so all
lowest.
you motherfuckers should be thankful for the immigrants. Because if it wasn't for the immigrants
They
and
did
all of them
kinda
coming,
save his
they
life.
saved his fucking life.
Did Joe Biden save Trump's life?
No.
No.
I would argue the Mexicans. The bad hombres saved his life.
That's kind of a fair point.
They're much closer.
He would have had a chart for something else if it wasn't. He's a big chart guy.
Yeah, and he's
data.
saying as he's saying take a look, and that's when you hear the shot.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I haven't heard too much more about the kid since Monday's show that we recorded for Tuesday, but I don't know that there's any new like information about him, what his motives were. I don't
think you're ever going to get any.
I think they got into his phone. So the FBI, Secret Service, they were trying to get into his phone. Apple has been notorious about not letting investigations into locked phones, not creating like a back door for them to get in. Because Apple says that if they were to allow, in the event of a situation like this, a high-value cell phone, you want to know what radicalized the kid, who he was talking to, if there were any other people that are involved in this. It's valuable information to have. But Apple says that they can't do it in a situation like this because that would mean that they would have to write a piece of code that would go on all iPhones that would leave it vulnerable to other hackers that wanted to get in. So they're saying they won't let them in. There are companies that can do this kind of off the books. So I think the FBI is probably going to have to contract with one of them. I think I heard that they might be getting into it. I don't know.
Where do you stand on that from Apple?
From Apple? Well, so if Apple is...
I like it.
If Apple's
Yeah, it's
telling
a
the
great
truth,
move.
and I don't know if this is the truth or not, but based on the information I have, if Apple is telling the truth and they're saying that they will not write code to go on iPhones that would allow people to hack into it, it's probably the right move.
And if you're the FBI and CIA, you should be able to get into a 20-year-old's phone.
You should be able to. Yeah. Just force, what is it, a six number code to get in?
4. I think you can have 4 or 6.
So if it's 4-digit code, they should just have somebody just trying every combination of code till it works.
Well, and surely you can I bet they could do like a fingerprint scan of the phone, see where it's touched most.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You should be able to get into that easy.
That's a good point. They probably can't do the Face ID with him anymore.
Yeah, you could. Why not?
Because a bullet went through his head.
Oh.
And they're like, sorry, we do not recognize.
It works with sunglasses.
It depends on the sunglasses. Sometimes my sunglasses
won't work.
Did a bullet go through the front or the back of the head?
I think it went through kind of the front, kind of the side.
Face might still be recognizable then.
Apple's like, we noticed that you have a debilitating head injury. Please go to a hospital when it lets you in. So yeah, Arian, have you heard anything else about the kid or about the guy? I should stop saying kid. He was 20-year-old man.
Yeah, nah, man. I mean, honestly I haven't really been that interested. I mean, he's dead. There's not that much more to what else do you want to know about him?
A lot.
Yeah, I want to know like who was behind it.
Wasn't it him?
Yeah, but
Or are you saying if there was any other actors or something like that?
any other actors, if he had any help, who he was talking about, why he did it? I think the why is the biggest question.
Yeah, I mean, because from what I did see one article that said he might have been conservative, which didn't make a lot of sense to me, but
He was registered as a Republican, but he had donated. The only political donation he ever made was to Win Blue or Blue Now or something. So nobody really knows.
yeah. So I mean, it just sounded like a little confused kid that be on the internet too much. But
Well, that's the thing. No trace of him ever on the internet. He's a ghost.
he probably has some kind of something. He had YouTube.
Not that we've found out about.
They said he was on a Discord channel, but they didn't go into detail. They said he didn't post much. They said he was just active on Discord. So who knows what channel he was into?
I don't know, but hopefully, I doubt it, but hopefully, I know a lot of like Republicans are blaming Biden's rhetoric and left's rhetoric, but hopefully he takes a look in the mirror at this and sees that his divisive rhetoric plays a part in heightening the political climate. Like he's absolutely part of the blame of why the country is so politically infused and everything is so politicized. He's a big part of the reason. I doubt he has that self-realization, but one can hope.
He said that he tore up his speech he was going to make at the RNC and that he's going to do a new one that's more about unity.
That would be a step in the right direction.
Yeah. The most recent article that I read had two different classmates that said that he was like typically on the conservative side of arguments in class. And then I saw people saying maybe he is mad at Trump for softening some of his takes on abortion. So I don't know. We don't know. We don't know what this kid, what his brain had been poisoned with. But yeah, big time failure by the Secret Service. And I did see that the head of the Secret Service said that they didn't put somebody up on that roof because it was sloped, right? So they thought that the other side of the slope.
Too dangerous.
Yeah. Was she saying it was too dangerous for?
Yeah, they said it was a
agents to be
safety
there?
concern to put somebody on a sloped roof.
Okay. But there were snipers that were on the sloped roof behind Trump.
Precisely.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to find out more about this. There's going to be big investigations behind it. But yeah, Arian, you think Biden's cooked now?
I don't know, man. The way I see it is the public, their attention span is so short that this may not be a factor. It could bolster some people that weren't going to vote for Trump to vote for Trump because I'm sure he's going to spin it as, look, they're trying to get me. But I think if you were already leaning left, this should entice you more. Even if you were moderately left, this should entice you more to vote against him because what it looks like they're planning to do is to put younger people in the Supreme Court, which would be a fucking disaster if you're a liberal or left-leaning. To have 5 Supreme Court appointed judges is just we're marching backwards as a country if we do that in our summation. So if you're not voting for Biden because you feel like he's enabling a genocide or he has gone against his word or you feel like he's too moderate, I feel like you have to play lesser of two evils here if you're in that case. So I'm hoping that part of the left wakes up, but I don't see that happening because of what's going on in Gaza and just Biden's lower approval rating and just he's just in a bad mental condition. So it's going to be tough, but I'm hoping the Democrats find a way to market what's actually at stake. And it's more than this presidency. It's 30, 40 years of a right-leaning Supreme Court.
Biden said that he was thinking about trying to make changes to the Supreme Court, like putting in, I forget the exact details of what he was talking about putting in, but it was like something to do with age, something to do with
Absolutely should. That should have been there.
Ethics clauses for the justices, where if you violate certain things, you can be recalled or whatever the case may be. Biden could also say what if Biden passed age limits for presidents?
That should be it should be age
on
limits for
himself,
everything, or cognitive limits.
But what if he did it for himself? Like, you can't be over 80 and be president.
Just outed himself.
Looks like I gotta go.
That'd be cool. Step down.
Fall on the sword and just be like, okay, no more old people.
That's the tough part too, though, with the Democrats is it takes a long time to market to people in order to get them to believe in your candidate. And so if he steps down, a lot of people are like, yo, step down. That's kind of a slippery slope, because if he steps down, the person that would likely step up is Kamala, and she just doesn't have a lot of favor. And so in order to market her to people, you don't have that much time. So it's kind of a shitty situation.
Yeah. I got a couple things I want to get into, and then we'll talk more about the Bible here. Arian, update us on your vacation.
Oh, man, it was beautiful, man. We took an RV and we drove all the way from Houston to Orlando, which is, well, it was probably like a good 11, 12 hours, something like that. And we stopped halfway and slept somewhere. So it was a good, like 6-7 hour push each time. It was really dope. And it was like a big RV. So I got all my kids, a good lady friend of mine. And we all mashed. And so it's really dope having an RV situation. If you never have, I recommend it. If you like long road trips, if you don't, you'll hate it. But if you like road trips or trains, traveling like that, it's really relaxing. Kids back there playing card games, drinking drinks, sodas, eating snacks. It's just a really dope vibe. So we get there, and we hit all the parks. So we hit Animal Kingdom. We hit is it Magic Mountain or Magic
Kingdom?
Magic Kingdom, and then we hit Universal the next day. So we got to hit all the parks. It's really dope vibe for the kids, man, and we do it annually, so it's cool seeing. We take a picture in front of the big castle every year, and it's cool seeing my kids grow, throughout the years, and it's kind of something that I recommend doing something with your family annually, like yearly, just to build that tradition. And it builds that, and it kind of instills that sense of, the family's toxic. There's all kinds of fights, and it happens. Family's toxic as shit. But that shit you can't replace, man. And it was good to see everybody. Got some really bad news during it though, man. That my good buddy that I played with for a long time, Jacoby Jones, he passed, and that fucked me up for a good day and some change. I was fucked up about that. That was like my brother, man. So, but that. Again, a juxtaposition of like really good, happy times with your family, and then hearing news like that. But he was just such a joy to be around that he almost makes you not want to grieve, just remember the good times that you had with him. And so it was some bad news to get, but just really grateful for all the times I got to spend with him, and the time I get with my family now. It just puts, anytime death hits close, man, it really puts life in perspective. So it was a very I guess cleansing trip mentally and spiritually, if that's the thing. Just everything that you go through as a human, kind of all in one, the ups and the downs happened on that trip. And I came out really grateful at the end, because I got a lot of time to decompress from everything, being able to drive. That's the one thing about long road trips. You could just space out and compartmentalize all your emotions. And I'm grateful that I got a chance to do that when all that hit. So it was good overall. It was a great trip, man.
What are your go-to your road trip snacks? Because that's a long drive, 6 hours. You have to plan out your snacks methodically.
So I always get beef jerky. That's just like pick at throughout. So you don't want to eat the whole thing, because it gets real gamey real fast. But like every 5 minutes or so, you get a little piece. I need a Dr. Pepper. I hop up on caffeine when I'm on road trip so I can stay awake. So I need a Dr. Pepper and I need a big joint of Red Bull. One of those big old canisters of Red Bull. Just a regular flavor for me. And then any kind of chips. I'm not too picky on the chips, but I usually go with like Doritos, something like that. And then to top it off, this is like a 3-course meal, but this is literally what I get every time. A big ass jumbo honey bun.
Oh
Okay.
man,
Good call.
Get the blood sugar go. Something with sustenance in it.
Yeah, man. And by the time, so that's my kids wanted me to work them out when I got back because we all ate like shit. But that's the one I'm talking about. Sugar upon sugar. You feel that rush too because you driving and you in it. It's all good. But like when you crash, you fucking crash. You feel like shit.
how do you feel about gummy bears in there?
We had some gummy bears. That was
There you
my
go.
6-year-old bought this big pack. She was very stingy with them shits, but she loves me. So she kept throwing me some, but she wouldn't give them to her brothers and sisters.
You know how people say Gatorade tastes best in the nipple bottle?
Yeah,
The
I
squeeze
agree with
top?
that. Yeah.
yeah.
Cool Ranch Doritos taste 5 times better in a car. I can't explain
I
why,
can
but
see
they
that.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
It's
can
like-
see that
yeah.
for sure.
Tomato juice on an airplane.
No,
Cool Ranch
I don't
Doritos.
know
I'm
on
about
so
a plane.
that.
tired of people
I'll
talking
one up you
about-
there.
Or
Ginger
some
ale.
Ginger ale.
Ginger
No,
ale.
I'm
Yeah.
not
That's the
saying,
official plane
I'm not
drink.
saying I drink tomato juice on a plane. I'm
Quite
saying
literally just did.
No, I didn't. If you listen to me, see, Big T, this is the reason why our country's
Nobody
discourse is
would
falling
suggest
apart right
that.
now.
Get his
Nobody
ass.
who doesn't drink tomato juice would suggest that.
No, well, if you were a well-read individual, you would, because you know that there's fucking studies out there that show that your taste buds react differently at altitude to tomato juice and ginger ale.
Well, we all said ginger ale because we like ginger ale. You said tomato juice
I-
because you like tomato
I've
juice.
never drank tomato juice in a plane in my life.
Why would you
But
bring it up?
That's a crazy thing
Because
to say. If
because
you
there's
don't.
studies that show that tomato juice tastes different and better on a plane as opposed to on the ground.
I think
because of the
tomato
altitude.
juice is an abomination to the Lord.
What about Bloody Marys?
Hate.
Ooh,
You hate
what?
Bloody
It's my
Marys?
number one overall. No, thank you.
Well,
drink.
hold on. Have you ever had a
too.
spicy Bloody Mary?
See, this is what people say. They're like, have you had this, brother? I've had them all. They stink. I
just-
hate 'em.
That's simply not true.
I'm glad I don't got your
I-
tongue because
I don't like tomato soup. Like if I'm gonna have tomatoes, it needs to be thick or it needs to be real
What about salsa?
great, chunky.
What about like pasta sauce?
Pasta sauce, great, chunky.
It's not chunky.
Well,
Pasta sauce with like bolognese, yeah, it is.
I guess it could have dices of tomatoes in it, but
yeah.
Bloody Marys they're elite. They're the best for hangovers. It's documented fact. You have a Bloody Mary at 10 a.m. the next day, you're back to zero.
I'll go with a transfusion.
That's also
Do you
good.
consider pizza sauce to be like thick?
Can you drink it?
You
You could drink a cup of marinara
But you
sauce.
would
yeah.
you would struggle. Like that's not something that you're putting down. You're drinking
no,
tomato
that's
juice.
true. That's
Yeah,
struggle
like-
drinking some Prego.
Yeah, like that's
Yeah,
not.
no, you're
it's
right.
like milkshake consistency. It has to like if it's just straight up juice, yuck.
I disagree. I disagree in the terms of a Bloody Mary.
Like the old V8s, you drink
V8,
those.
Gross. No, gross.
But I don't know. I know I'm in the like rarity there, but I cannot stand a Bloody Mary.
Well, you're wrong.
Even
I'm
if it
with you on
has
the
like
V8s.
50 things coming out of the top. And can we stop it with that?
It does go overboard sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, why do we need
Give me,
six
I need
sliders on a drink?
olives. I need celery. I need all that shit coming out of the top.
Candied bacon coming out. What are
Oh,
we
yeah.
doing?
God, yes.
Yeah, we need to grow up.
I got
Go down, baby.
I got a fun food fact that I learned over the weekend. Did you guys know that strawberries are not berries?
Saw
Yeah.
that.
What are they?
Did you know that bananas are berries?
Yep.
Huh.
Bananas a berry, strawberries not.
They said strawberry's not a berry because the seeds are on the outside. Which, do you know what they said? I never saw what it was then.
I don't know what it could be. Just a
there's-
fruit.
Fuck, I forget.
It's a
I
fruit
still
of
have it
some
as my
type.
number one berry.
I think it should stay.
Yeah,
It's like,
I mean-
yeah, tomato's technically a fruit. Fuck out of here. That's
Yeah.
a vegetable.
Yeah, avocado, fruit,
Yeah.
not really.
It says that botanists call the strawberry a false fruit, a pseudocarp. A strawberry is actually a multiple fruit which consists of many tiny individual fruits embedded in a fleshy receptacle.
See, that's trying too hard.
Yeah.
It's a fruit.
It's number one berry.
I mean, it's
It's
a
number
berry.
one off the board.
It's called
Yeah.
a strawberry.
Right. It's a berry.
Yeah.
not
Coffee,
number two.
coffee bean. Coffee is a
Blue
fruit
number
too.
2.
Blue number 2.
Ooh,
Berry?
For berry,
Oh.
I love a good in-season blueberry. Yes. Out-of-season blueberry, it drops significantly. But a good blueberry,
That's
yeah.
every fruit, isn't it?
My number one berry, black.
Blackberry's good.
Like
Interesting.
blackberry, there was this rifle range that we used to practice on. And And I used to get in trouble so much for being like, I gotta piss, and I would just be in the woods walking around eating wild blackberries. It was my favorite. Like it's so good. Like if it had a little deer piss on it, who cares?
Yeah.
I'm eating that shit wild.
Berries off the vine are delicious. Blackberries are so good. What about raspberries?
Nope, get them out of my
Fuck
face.
me up. I love those
Too
things.
I
tangy.
like those too.
You could slide those in at 3 for me.
Number 3.
Raspberry
Pretty
number
high,
3.
yeah.
Wow.
What other berries are there?
Poison.
Mole.
There is boysen mulberry. I don't know the difference between mulberry, boysenberry. There is a berry called the Marionberry,
Yeah.
which I did not know. I grew up in D.C. I thought that was just the name of the mare.
I would have thought you were kidding if
No.
you said that.
It's
Where
an
are you
actual
putting
berry.
Matthew Berry?
Oh, Matthew Berry
Eric?
after Marionberry.
Where do you put Daryl?
Strawberry, pretty high up.
Yeah.
Not a fruit. also,
True.
also not a fruit. Yeah, the
Wow,
Marionberry.
I've never heard of this one. Kiwi berry. I've never heard of this one.
Is that kiwi fruit? Is that the same thing?
The
Is
hardy
kiwi a
kiwi
berry?
is a perennial vine native to Japan, Korea, northern China, and the Russian Far East. It produces a small kiwi
Oh my
fruit.
god, they look like little
without the-
kiwi grapes.
Yeah, this is kind of lit. Without the hair-like fiber covering the outside, unlike most other species of
Wait,
the
I
genus.
Is a grape technically a berry?
Let me see.
I don't think so. I don't think.
I don't know enough
It's on a,
about
it's on a vine.
taxonomy.
Grapes
of-
are berries.
Grapes are berries.
Really?
Wow.
Well, that makes me rethink my whole thing.
So I'm going.
But I'm not counting those
I'm
as
going-
berries.
black, straw, grape.
I would go straw grape blue if we're counting grapes.
But do you like grape the flavor grape, or do you like the flavor of the fruit grape?
So I like
Do you like purple, or do you like grape?
I like white grapes.
Okay,
So
Those,
that's
are the,
what,
those are the green ones, right?
yes.
Yeah.
those are real hardworking ones. Yeah,
So when I'm envisioning grapes, they're green.
High motor
Yeah.
grapes,
yeah,
high IQ.
the kind of grapes that you would want your daughter to date.
Also grape, my favorite, my Gatorade flavor too.
Grape?
Oh, that's crazy.
Purple's
is
my
crazy.
favorite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
crazy.
It's just
great.
for sitting around. So I go, if I just play, like if I'm going out, it's super hot and golfing, I'm going yellow.
That's correct.
If I'm sick, I'm going orange.
See, people say that. I don't like orange, period.
Because the vitamin C
Wow.
that it
Wow.
probably has.
Which is
Mr.
crazy.
Vitamin C
I
doesn't
know,
like
yeah.
orange Gatorade?
And then
What
just
the
sitting
fuck?
around leisurely, like having a cold one with the boys, I'm going great.
You
purple.
never fuck with blue.
I'll fuck with blue if it's around, but I feel like blue is like anal for me. It's got to be like a special situation.
Glacier Freeze isn't your number one?
What a comparison.
No.
Lemon lime got to be number one.
And me,
for,
me personally, I guess I'm
That's
a
the
little bit
yellow
different
zone,
from
right?
Chaps and,
Yeah.
and Big T, but I personally like Body Armor, and I never drink Gatorade. I've got a fun story that we should get into just real quick, just to discuss. Did you guys ever hear about the woman that got addicted to getting stung by bees?
No, but she's hardcore.
Fuck, bro.
This is a fun one for Guess the Race. Guess what race this could be, Arian?
Oh, man.
It was on My Strange Addiction
Love that show.
a while ago. It was like,
Fantastic show.
it's a great show, isn't it? Just people getting addicted to the weirdest shit.
After
so-
watching it, I ate so much mattress foam for a while.
What?
No, I didn't really.
There's got to be something to this, yeah. So this lady, Margaret, she got addicted to getting stung by bees because she thought that it would relieve pain from her arthritis that she had in her hands. So she would get, I guess maybe there's some truth to that, where it's like if I get stung by a bee, then I'm not thinking about my joints hurting anymore.
Do you think it's like double inflammation?
Maybe.
Like it cancels it out like two negatives?
I think it's like you can't feel pain in two places at once, or it's harder.
Is that a thing?
Didn't we talk about this on Tuesday?
Yeah.
I think we did. So, like how when Trump got shot in his ear, then it would be less likely for him to know if he got shot somewhere else. Like the adrenaline's going, he gets stood up by the Secret Service that are checking him for holes because he might not know that he got shot in the second place. And it's like when Tom Segura broke both his arm and he fucked up his knee at the same time. It's hard for people to like distinguish. I mean, Aaron, you've played a lot of high contact sports. Have you ever had two injuries at once?
Yeah. I guess. Yeah, I guess one always takes precedent over the other. Like you'll still feel it, but there's one that's always more prevalent.
An order of precedence for hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that makes sense because it's just an electrical signal sent from your brain saying this hurts. So how many, how much can it send? I don't know though. I don't know enough about the neurology.
Your body just prioritizes?
I would think just like as a like an evolutionary reaction. Like it would make sense that you'd have to like prioritize pain so that you're just not like paralyzed from it.
Yeah, you do triage on yourself. So this lady, Margaret, she's from Kentucky. She got addicted to stinging herself with bees. So she takes like these bees with tweezers and sometimes picks them up in her hand, and she just puts them on different parts of her body and just presses them against her arm. She's been stung 50,000 times. And this woman's a serial killer.
I was about to say, yeah, she's kind of evil.
Every time these honeybees sting her, the stinger comes out and their guts fall out.
That's not true.
With honeybees, yeah, it is.
No, only when they are actually pollinating, like when they're going to mate with the queen, does that happen.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Because I think that
I was watching, unless I was had too many of these delicious can of drinks, I was watching Art and Borrow talk about it the other day.
Because I've always heard that yellow jackets, wasps, hornets, they can sting you multiple times because they just got the stinger that doesn't have the grooves on it. But when a honeybee does it, it goes in, it gets stuck, and then
I think
they
it's
die.
only in certain situations that happens.
Interesting. Well, I didn't know that.
Upon my quick research from this, it says honeybees, the most common bee species worldwide, typically die after stinging because their barbed stingers get stuck in the skin and can't be retracted when the bee flies away. It leaves behind part of its abdomen, digestive tract, muscles, and nerves, which can cause the massive abdominal rupture. The bee stinger also continues to pump venom into the wound for up to 10 minutes after it's gone, which can cause the bee to bleed to death. This process of leaving behind a body part as a defense mechanism is called dumb, but they call it autonomy.
That is dumb. That is dumb. You would think that they would evolve out of that.
Well, I just got fact checked on my fact check.
So this lady Margaret says that she has her husband.
Wait, hold up. An amendment. However, some other types of bees, like bumblebees and carpenter bees, have smooth stingers that allow them to sting multiple times without harm. Queen honeybees can also sting multiple times.
Okay, so the carpenter bees can do it.
So Snopes, it's a mixed bag.
Okay.
Vindicated.
This lady has her husband that's helping her get stung. And then she says, you got to admit, after I've had at least 10 stings, the sex is great. And he agreed that it was. It's better after she's been stung. So I don't know if there's any medical validity to any of this.
Yeah,
you can get addicted to.
Yeah,
Exactly. You can get addicted to anything. She just likes a little bit of pain.
Yeah, I think
she's gonna have to ramp it up with hornets eventually. Because bees aren't gonna get it done.
A slippery slope.
Yeah.
You're always
I
chasing
wonder
that
what the
dragon.
sex is.
Yeah.
The sex got to be a little on the kinky side too. If you out here just getting stung on a Tuesday regularly because you feeling it, when you getting a little horny, I bet you there's some chains and whips and wax involved. Something crazy going on.
Oh yeah, if I'm horny enough, you can bring out bees.
Yeah, but then you're right, Chaps. You got to step it up,
Mm-hmm.
and then next thing you know, you got a bird that's like pecking you.
Yep.
Then you got like a
Snake in your bed.
snake that's biting you.
Yeah.
Oh my
And
god!
you're just like getting attacked by dogs while you fuck.
Yeah.
You go on a safari.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you're fucking inside a blue whale, hanging out with Jonah.
How long do you survive inside a whale?
You and Jonah are fucking in the whale's belly.
I never understood why people die once they get just swallowed, or animals get swallowed by another animal. If I got swallowed by a bird, because you've seen like pelicans swallow like pigeons and shit whole, and the pigeon just gives up and dies. If a big bird swallowed me, I would just start punching its stomach on the inside. I would work my way out of there
It's the reason why you should keep some fingernails.
in case you
You
get
just
swallowed
never
by
know.
an animal.
Aren't there? I think I've seen videos of snakes like swallowing stuff, and you can see it's still moving.
Oh yeah,
for a
big time.
while.
Like when like a Burmese python will eat like a baby deer, you can see like the legs kicking.
That's crazy.
Inside.
a baby deer,
Bro,
Oh,
there
yeah.
are snakes that eat gators.
Yep.
bro. That's why I do not fuck with that thing there. That y'all say God don't make mistakes. He fucked up making them nasty shits. I hate snakes, bro.
I mean, having
Oh
those
my
huge,
God.
being in Florida and having those huge pythons roam around all over the place. No, thank you, man.
Yeah.
Nope.
Nah, bro. I do
I
not.
saw, have you seen the video? It's a snake that's eating an alligator and they cut it out of it. It's crazy.
No, I haven't seen that one.
They cut the alligator out of
Well,
the snake.
well, they're both dead. So the snake has taken on the shape of an alligator.
Oh,
Because
and it tried to regurgitate it, right?
no, they're both dead. I don't know if there's another one, but in the video I'm talking about, they're both dead. The snake died from eating this thing because it's way too big, killed it. And so they cut the snake open and pull out a full, just completely intact alligator.
That would make some great boots.
It's crazy. Yeah.
The combo?
Half and half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
And then if you had like the picture that you could show somebody,
That
you
would
like
be
these boots,
awesome.
this is where that comes
That'd
from.
be, has anyone ever done that? Had one and one?
Of one thing that ate the other?
No,
And you
well,
got 'em
just
both
this
on?
one's gator, this one's snake skin.
You should. Like, you could be able to do it the same thing with the deer. You could have deer leather. That would be incredible. I went through a big stage, Big T, speaking of that, where I think it was during COVID. Yeah, it was. Where I wanted to go through I went through eBay and would put an exotic animal that I could think of, boots. And so I have, like, at my house, I have elephant boots. I have stingray boots. I have, like, those kind of boots. My favorite one, lambskin. By
Lambskin's
far.
the best?
Yeah.
Softest?
So comfortable. Yep.
Huh. I never really got into cowboy boots when I was in Texas. I bought a pair, and you would think that I would love them because they add a good 2 inches onto your vertical height.
Shout out Ronnie D.
You just pinch. They pinch too much.
Yeah. And I think the worst part is when you start wearing them, like the top part will dig into your calf a
Yep.
little bit. So you have to have super high socks, which is not conducive in Texas either, because then you're going to
You get
have
sweaty as
so
fuck.
sweaty. Pants, high socks, and boots, no good.
I also felt like a poser because
No cattle.
Yeah, I moved to Austin in like 2008, 2009. And so I'm there in like 2013 thinking I want to get cowboy boots, but then I'm wearing them. I'm like, I'm not a cowboy.
That's the most devastating thing you could say to a man in Texas. You're all hat, no cattle.
Yeah,
Just absolute own.
there's no comeback. from
You
that.
can't. You're like, damn, I don't have cattle,
Yeah.
but I do wear a hat.
You go out, you buy a cow just so that you have a.
Yeah.
Yeah, say that to Bessie's face, bitch.
Yeah.
I just milked her today.
I think a yak would count. I think you have a yak. In
That's a
Texas.
cattle. Yeah.
Yeah.
An oxen of some sort.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the picture of this snake swallowing the gator. First of all, respect to the snake. Got Nancy Reagan vibes. Second of all, to the alligator.
Mm-hmm.
This alligator's a bitch. Like, all his alligator friends definitely clowned him. Like, do you see Greg? He got eaten by a snake.
Yeah.
You don't even fit into a snake's mouth.
Nope.
You got to be a soft-ass gator for that.
But that gator, I mean, we've all been in the place of that snake too, where your eyes are bigger than your stomach, where you, like Thanksgiving, you just pour all kinds of stuff on your plate. Next thing you know, you can't eat it. You got to regurgitate it a little
Yeah.
bit, make room.
Do you think that the snake died because it ate the gator?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was too big?
Yeah. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't live like that.
Hard to give that thing the Heimlich maneuver.
Imagine the shit
With
that
a
you'd have
big
to
old
take
gator.
afterwards.
Yeah. Oh, the guy who won, not Joey, but the dude who won the Nathan's hot dog contest was in here yesterday, and I asked him what are some of the most, like, in your eating competitions, what are the most vicious shits you've had after, and he said it's blueberries with a bullet. Like, that there's nothing that comes close because of the acidity of blueberries, that once it's coming out, it's all, he was like, I had to do like 4 or 5 courtesy flushes, and then he was like, and this is the end. And he showed me a picture of the toilet, and it looks like somebody had made like cereal in there with full ass blueberries. They like full, the toilet all the way up to the rim of blueberries. And he said that was like, he ate, I think it was like 18 pounds or something like that of blueberries in one sitting.
So at that point, it doesn't even get processed into being like a turd. There's no brown turd.
Yeah.
It's just blueberries coming out of your butthole.
He was like, it looked like blueberries that were wet, and they somehow got bigger. Like the blueberries were larger. But I asked him I was like, do you have any pictures like that for hot dogs? And he was like, no, I should not see that. Like what it looks like.
I imagine the oyster ones are not good either.
Oh, slimy.
If you eat 400 oysters,
yeah.
probably really easy to shit out though.
Oh yeah.
There's
Yeah.
some foods that are probably more
Grease the
difficult than
skids.
others. Some that are
Mhm.
very easy.
Mhm.
Oysters, I feel like it just goes down and then out.
Yeah.
Your
Easy.
body's just a conveyor belt at that point.
Yeah.
Big T also sent over a story today about 6 tons of cocaine have been found in a banana shipment. I'm looking at this coke. This seems like a shitload of cocaine. 6 tons.
Let me see.
That is a
coke.
shitload.
It was found in Ecuador. They were shipping it from
wow.
Ecuador over to Germany in a banana shipment.
Now we should have played Guess That Continent.
Yeah. Germany is a surprising one.
Really?
Yeah. I feel like do Germans do a lot of coke?
Apparently.
I guess they do.
But I wouldn't have. That wouldn't be on my top 10 of coke countries.
Coke countries. Give me your top 5.
Colombia, obviously.
Mm-hmm. You think they do a lot of coke there, or they export it?
I think they do a lot. The partying scene in Colombia is pretty extreme.
Okay.
I know a lot of Secret Service guys that got busted for prostitution there.
I heard about that.
And
yeah.
cocaine was definitely involved. I think America.
I would be okay with my Secret Service agents being coked up, though.
Yeah. Hyper vigilant.
Hyper vigilant. A little insane.
Probably could have used some of that on Saturday.
For sure.
And Don Jr. was there, so there should have been plenty
There
around.
should have been a lot. So we got Colombia. I would
say America's in there.
Uh-huh.
Venezuela.
Maybe Amsterdam because of the party scene.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe I just didn't go to the right places in Amsterdam, but it seemed like a fairly mellow country when I was there.
Based on movies, I would think England would be up there.
Yeah. Yes. London, definitely big time Coke City. What about Hong Kong? Probably the drug laws there.
About Prague.
Yeah. Party cities.
Prague is a big time party city.
Yeah. There's probably some Italian ones mixed in there. Rome probably does a lot of Coke.
Think so?
I think
Venice.
I bet you Denmark does a lot of Coke.
Just in just in general.
In general, yeah. And then Greece, from what I gathered in the
Norway likes to ski.
Yeah, they do. The Greek Isles seems like a big party place.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then Croatia.
Nicaragua.
I bet you Croatia does a fuckload of Coke per capita.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, all those yachts. Monaco.
I mean, basically anywhere in the Eastern Bloc.
Monaco, I bet. All the rich people, because I think it's the wealthiest country
Per capita,
in the world.
no, but I bet like ingested there for sure.
Yeah.
Because the riches love cocaine.
Do they still do Coke in Russia, or is it just crocodile now?
I think it's just crocodile.
Crocodile. That's a drug I never want to try.
Those are some of my favorite blogging stories back in the day.
What was it? It was like it was gasoline that they would put into it.
I don't remember what the makeup was, but I remember being like, how in the world would you think it's a good idea to ingest this?
It was one of the places that Vice would go all the time. They'd be like, we just spent 2 weeks in
Florida.
Siberia
Or Florida. Yeah.
watching people do crocodile and have it turn their arms into like scales and shit.
Because there was that one story in Florida where the dude tried it and legit ate people's faces.
Yeah.
Remember that story?
Yeah, the zombie. There were
Yeah.
two separate zombie stories in Florida in the same year, where one guy did crocodile and he tried to eat people's faces. The other guy was like a raging alcoholic with mental issues.
Wasn't he on Spice?
He might have been on Spice. Yeah. Did you ever take Spice?
Yeah.
I did one time. Not fun.
I did because it didn't show up on like military drug tests.
The K2 stuff didn't.
Mm-mm.
They didn't have. I guess it was just all chemicals that they would spray down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did it one time. I got just very paranoid, and it was pre-Uber, so I was at my friend's house, and the guy was like, "Hey, smoke this." We bought it at the gas station. They're selling weed at the gas station now. It's crazy. So I was like, "Oh shit, okay, it's just a joint." So I smoked a few hits of it, and then I was like, "I feel very paranoid right now." I went to the Yellow Pages. I looked up a cab company. I was like, "I got to call a cab, get me home." And I was like, "I'm not fucking touching that stuff ever again."
Yeah.
Felt real bad.
I
We
saw
had people
some, I
that
saw some
were-
people wig out on that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like wig out.
Yeah. I saw people or heard of people jumping out of like barracks rooms,
Yeah.
like out of like 3rd story windows.
I think was it Chandler Jones that did that when he was on the Patriots?
Jumped
I
out of a
thi-
window.
I think he might have jumped either off a balcony or ran through a window.
And it was Spice, right?
It was Spice, yeah. He was trying to get away from the cops.
I think it was Chandler Jones.
That's what
Maybe Brandon Spikes.
one of the Kimdichi brothers did that, right? Fell out of a window,
Did he?
I think.
All I know is don't
Lots
take
of Russian KGB officers too.
don't take Spice.
Huge window guys.
I made a decision today. I think I'm gonna try to grow my own mids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to, I won't say who
What's
it
the
was.
limit here? 2 plants?
Yeah, I think it's 2 plants. There was an athlete that was coming through the studios, and he's starting to grow marijuana like on a farm. He's got a license and all that shit. And I was talking about mids and how we need to bring back mid-grade, just regular, normal weed. And he was like, yeah, we're trying to do kind of the opposite. We're trying to get the best weed that we can. I was like, not for me. He was like, you should grow your own. And so I think I might try it.
I agree. Mid should come back. Because I went to Michigan, and they have like 2-3 tiers. And it's so much cheaper if you haven't gotten it in Michigan. It's like $80 an ounce for like their entry level. Tried it the other day, high as shit. And then they have another one that's 160 that was like 34% THC. I'm like, why? Who needs to be that high?
You don't.
Like, how is that even enjoyable?
It's not. Well, I guess for some people have higher tolerances than others.
Like, I smoke all the time. Can eat like a 50 milligram bar, no problem. That shit, I'm like on the couch for like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah. Just regular weed.
Yeah.
Normal weed. It's okay to smoke just straight normal weed. I'm going to try to grow it.
I would like to have some when you're done.
Do you think I could just like grow it on my rooftop?
I bet
You'd have to do it outside somewhere where it can get light. Or unless you have the whole thing on the inside, which costs a lot of money.
My friend grew like a lot. You can do it.
When's growing season?
Summer.
So I can plant like right now.
I think
Yeah,
so.
probably.
She grew it last year.
You'd probably have to find a spot where the sun comes over your roof at the right angle, where the sun will hit it, but also, because it'd be in a smaller pot, protected from a lot of the water that would come. Because it's a lot of heavy rain here.
Yeah.
So I think just straight up on your porch, probably not a great idea unless you have a spot where you could protect it like a potted plant.
Maybe just put it on my roof and then keep it under some shade.
Yeah.
And go up and water it every couple days or something. I don't know. I'll watch a YouTube video on it. And then I'll become an expert.
Figure that out.
I need to get a seed first, right? Or should I get a live plant?
I think you have to do it from a seed.
Okay.
I don't think you can replant those.
Okay. I'm gonna get some seeds and we're gonna work on this. Big T also sent over a fun story. Donald Trump is now selling $300 assassination attempt sneakers.
And they only go up to a 13. What the hell, Don?
Oh, you tried to buy them?
Yeah. Have you seen them? They're sick.
I did see them.
Are they better than the other ones that he had? The gold ones?
Yeah, they're better. So
I like the gold ones better.
Nah, these are
the story behind these is better.
It's got him doing the fist up. It says fight, and then the back heel has the American flag.
Look at this.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I like the gold design better.
Yeah.
I disagree. I love these. Only go.
I think I've seen those at Zara.
What are the 5 stars for?
I don't know. He's a 5-star recruit. 5-star hearts.
The 5 Secret Service agents that did a really great job, and the one that's left off is the woman.
Yeah. All right, so we got anything else we want to get into? Anything burning you up, Arian?
Nah, I've been low key kind of out the loop. Other than that Trump shit. Oh yeah, okay. Here's something that's funny as shit. So like, I did watch a portion of the episode of y'all shit, of our shit. I say y'all shit, of the Trump episode. And Big T, you had said something about how like the left and the leftist rhetoric of calling him Hitler and stuff has like led us to this point.
Undoubtedly true.
I would argue unequivocally false. But the funnier part is the mans that your mans just picked for vice president literally called him Hitler.
I mean, you'd be picking from a pretty small pool of Republicans who at one time did not dislike Trump.
That's my point. It's not about the left. It's about Trump. And as a rational Republican, you should acknowledge his part in people calling him fascist, people calling him an asshole, people calling him all these things that led to him. I would say led him to being shot, but led to the political climate from him possibly having harm done. Would you not agree that he had a huge part to play in this?
So you said fascist. Name one thing Trump's ever done that's fascist.
he literally wants more oversight in the executive branch. You would disagree with that?
What do you mean more oversight?
You mean more
The
more
idea
power.
of like presidential immunity is one. Like constantly going, the president should be immune from.
So think
any
about
type
this.
of prosecution.
He's appointed
like
all
making that
these
argument.
judges. He's appointed more Supreme Court justices that are undoubtedly loyal to him, who can make him escape prosecution from courts, right? From acts that he committed. You don't think that rings at all a little bit fascist? Or is it
I
just
think
like, nah, he's done everything
the
perfect,
most
and everybody
fascist
just hates
people
him?
in this country are the ones committing like
Focus,
political
focus.
violence and
Don't
silencing their opponents.
Don't do what about
who ironically call themselves anti-fascist.
Don't do what aboutisms, bro. Focus. I'm asking you about Trump. We can talk about Antifa later if that's what you want to do. I'm more than happy to talk about them. We're talking about Trump. You asked me specifically about Trump. Let's keep it at Trump, because I would argue that his rhetoric caused the political climate to explode in this country like has never been seen.
He has said some crazy shit. He has never said things like directly pointed at an individual like the things that are said about him.
Like what?
Like that he is Hitler.
Okay. He literally calls people all the names in the book. He literally says that
like
Hillary
Little
Clinton should be
Marco
locked
and
up.
Lion Ted
No. He calls for political persecution of his opponents. Hillary Clinton. He talked about locking Obama up. He talked about locking all these people up.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a good point. He says in a debate, because you'd be in jail to Hillary Clinton. He then becomes president. What happened?
That's nothing.
But
this is not. We're not talking about did he take action. We're talking
that's
about
a pretty important piece of the puzzle.
He also said that there should be parts of the Constitution that were thrown out if that's what it needed.
Absolutely, he said that too. And then
I'm unfamiliar with that. I would need to see that.
Go on Truth Social. It's on his show. He wrote it.
He wrote it.
He quoted it.
That we should put aside parts of the Constitution if it means that we regain what we had.
Yes, that
if we also want to make America great again, we have to be willing to do anything, including I'll find it.
Well, if he said that, that's a dumb thing to say. That is not pointed at an individual saying he is a threat to
that is a threat.
Fabric of this nation.
That's a bigger threat than a specific person.
That is a direct threat.
Yeah, it's a dumb thing to say. That he's not pointing at an individual saying we need to take this guy out, put him in the crosshairs.
Nobody said
Fascism is not the target of the individual. It's the target of the populace.
Yes, and that's what he specifically has been doing. So is he a fascist? I don't think I'd go out and say he's a fascist. I don't think he's politically savvy enough to understand what fascism is. That's just my honest opinion. But he does have rhetoric that is very fascist in nature. And the issue I have with his supporters is they admonish, they disregard every single thing that he does that's bad as, well, he's just being playful. Oh, he's doing this. But when it comes to criticize the other side with that same metric, they are on their ass. And that's the thing is, I'm with you. I criticize from the left all the time, but it seems like the right refuses to criticize from the right. And that's the issue. I see it. And when you say that the left is responsible for this rhetoric, has there been irresponsible rhetoric from the left? Sure. But the right has turned this up to a level that it has not been, to where now the left is doing nothing but playing defense. And I would say
that's not true.
You mean to tell me, bro, that the Barack Obama, because that's Barack Obama is responsible for turning the political climate in this country up? If that's the case, we don't.
I didn't say that.
Okay, so who was the next president, brother?
And who hates him, and who's been saying all the shit about him?
Answer the question. Who's the next president?
Trump.
It was Trump. Who turned this country upside down with their rhetoric? Are you literally trying to tell me it's anybody other than Trump?
Trump has said some wild, crazy shit. Of course.
Instead of admitting it, it's just
what do you mean? I'm acknowledging what you're saying.
I don't think you are.
I just did.
But there's wild and crazy is different than here. You want to hear what he said
about the Constitution?
Yeah. So with the revelation of massive and widespread fraud and deception, and working closely with the big tech companies, the DNC, the Democrat Party, Do you throw the presidential election results of 2020 out and declare the rightful winner? Or do you have a new election? A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulation, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. Our great founders did not want and would not condone false and fraudulent elections.
Yeah, that's wrong. You shouldn't say that.
Right. That is fascism. Like, that is the introduction. Like, if you have a democratic constitution and you have a leader who is trying to get presidential immunity from
he's the
presidential
worst
crime.
fascist to ever live. He was in control of the military for 4 years, never once had any sort of went after anybody with the military, never did anything that a good fascist would do. So if he is one, he's the worst to ever do it.
I mean, the things that he did in the military, the things that he attempted to do we have things in place to block some of those, like going out and installing the National Guard to take on those riots. Like, he wanted to have them shot. Like, there's multiple reports from multiple different people inside the White House that are all Republicans saying, can we shoot these people? That is luckily we have some of these safeguards, but when the judicial branch is, nobody's had more federal judges that was taking place, not just the Supreme Court, but working just like this last case, having it thrown out in the one that was in Florida because the appointment of a special prosecutor. That happens in high-level cases without a doubt all the time in American history. Hell, Biden's son did. Hunter had a special prosecutor that was named for his case. Should his being thrown out too, his conviction be thrown out? Whenever you had Bill Clinton, when his special prosecutor, should all the things that happened, should Bill Clinton's impeachment be tossed out?
Wait, I'm lost. So now it's Trump's fault that the judges are like conservative judges that he appointed are doing what they see, like that's his fault?
That argument of having no special counsel has never been made. Like, that special counsels are unconstitutional.
I'm not familiar enough with that case, but
I mean, they're like the overturning presidential immunity, pushing for that and having the Supreme Court, most of which he appointed, have that decision. Like, those are big decisions. Like, it's not about attacking one individual person, which he has done more than any other political figure in the history of the United States, but also the way that they are dismantling, like taking over different parts of Moms of Liberty, for example, having books that have been read and widely read, like To Kill a Mockingbird, put on banned book list in Florida, being able to identify any book with queer people in Florida that is inappropriate in nature. That is the document.
Hang on. No. You're talking about books that have graphic, like, gay porn in
Look
them.
up if To Kill a Mockingbird was on there.
Gender queer. Yes, there are, Arian.
Gay porn. Bro,
yes, there are.
Bro,
look up the book Gender Queer. When people talk about banning books, that's the book that's being banned.
Look up how many books Florida has banned. Look up that.
That has nothing to do with Trump.
Yes, what you talk, bro?
Trump can ban books in Florida?
Brother, this is a political party led by this man. I remember when it was after Trump lost and we were having this discussion and you were like, oh no, Trump's not going to be the Republican nominee. And I was like, bullshit. That is the Republican Party. Wherever he goes, that's where the Republican Party goes. And you fought me on that, right? And this is why that he's so dangerous and why people on the left consider him a threat. Is because his rhetoric, it emboldens, because I don't honestly think he gives a fuck about pushing a Republican agenda. I think he just wants to stay in power. And I think he just wants to do all of this shit to embolden himself. I don't think he's that savvy enough to do all of this stuff. But what a lot of Republicans see is that he has the Republican vote. No matter what happens, the Republicans are going to vote for him. That's the populace, right? And a lot of far-right Republican Christian nationalists see, okay, I can push my agenda through supporting him. And that's what we're seeing. So that's why we're seeing this big push with the Republican Party, because they're just all coattailing them. And all of them, 90% of these motherfuckers talk shit about him behind his back because they think he's not savvy. He don't give a fuck. He's just a selfish dude. And this is my opinion, but a lot of people feel like this. He's just a selfish dude that wants to stay in power. But the political, I guess, facets around him recognize that and are just hinging on to his train, and that's what's dangerous, and that is a threat. That's why they view him as a threat. I don't think it's dangerous to call somebody that has literally put potentially 5 Supreme Court justices that are radical, that are rolling back things that have been there since 1950, a threat. That's a literal threat.
Well, that's your opinion, though.
That's not my opinion. This is a fact. There are women. There are women that cannot get access to abortion, that are doing it on their own, that have to cross state lines to do this stuff. That is directly affecting people's lives. That is not my opinion, bro. That is a fact.
Since Dobbs, infant mortality in Texas has risen by 8%. It was already the 48th in the nation. Since Dobbs was overturned, 8% increase in infant mortality.
I think that Donald Trump is, it's very simple to understand why he's garnered so much support on the right. And that's that he is very good at making fun of people that Republicans don't like. So he will own the libs to a degree that we've never seen in human history. Libs have never been owned by anybody more than they've been owned by Donald Trump. And so people on the right see that and they're like, yep, I like that.
And owning people on the right. Like every other major, like there's not another Republican that is a major voice that he hasn't completely like destroyed verbally and made fun of. And then they all get in line. It's the most bizarre shit.
It's the wildest shit. No, Ted
like
Cruz,
Lil Marco trying to be the vice president.
All these
like,
motherfuckers. All
it's
of them.
crazy. Like I don't understand. Like Ted Cruz, like saying your dad shot JFK, and then you're going out there and making calls
because they don't care about. And this is why I respect like somebody like Mitt Romney, right? Whether I disagree with him on 90% of the shit that he says legislatively, right? But I respect him because at least he stands on principles. He says, this man is morally abhorrent. I don't agree with how he conducts his business. I don't care if he pushes my agenda or not. He's not the right man for the job. And his base he's got slandered because of that shit. Whereas a Ted Cruz, Ron DeSantis, or all these cats that ran against him, he talked mad shit about them. He has slandered them and their families. And then they did the same, and then they come
Ted
back
Cruz's
around
wife ugly and fat.
Well, when they need the votes, when they come back, he's the man for the job, and then they go on to defending this man and his actions. This shit is disgusting, and this is why I say all that to say, Republicans that like Trump, you gonna like him. Nothing I say is going, and I'm not trying to convince anybody, but at least, bro, look at the rhetoric that he espouses. Don't say, well, what about them? Put them to the side. Yes. People say left shit, dumb shit on the left as well. But the shit that he has said has turned up the volume on this shit tenfold. And that's always going to ruffle everybody up who doesn't have any kind of rational reasoning behind what they're doing. And so that's why I think he's a horrible candidate. Aside from his policies, he's just not somebody who's going to ever go towards diplomacy. He's always going to talk shit. And that as if you're leading the country, if we're on a podcast and you just have opinions, none of that shit matters. You're just giving your opinion. But if you are the quote unquote leader of the free world, dog, you got to be some kind of peaceful. And he's not.
And when he was the leader of the free world and he went to the UN and made some of those crazy statements, everybody else across the globe laughed at him to his face.
So if he does what he says he's going to do, and tomorrow night goes out on stage and delivers like a toned down, quote, unifying, if that's the word you want to use, speech, would that impress you at all?
It would surprise me. I don't know about impress me. It depends on what he says. I can't say I will or won't be impressed by something he hasn't said yet. Like, so I'm always open-minded to change, but that man is 70-some years old, and maybe a brush with death has awoken him to maybe calm down a little bit. But it's what I would applaud it. I'd be like, man, I would appreciate it. I don't know about applaud. I would appreciate it. I would appreciate him saying, listen, everybody can take it. Because if you look at political discourse from before he got in office, we can disagree. Big T, me and you disagree on just about everything, but you still the homie. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we may get heated every now and then, but like, you still my dog. Like, the way. A
great example of that, Arian, was when John McCain was doing a town hall, and one of the women was like, I don't like President Obama because he's a Muslim and he's not from here. And McCain was like, whoa, stop. We disagree on policy, but this is a great man who loves his family. You would absolutely not see that now. That doesn't happen. And that was the election right before.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying
that
we
guy
have
was saying, like, because he was a prisoner of war.
Yeah, which Trump fucking 100%.
Crazy,
What's
man.
also kind of wild about that story is the Obama rumors were like very much exacerbated by Donald Trump. Remember, he was investigating it.
Yeah, I'll give you $1 million to any charity if you produce a birth certificate.
Birtherism.
And then they did, and that one wasn't good enough. That was started, popularized by Trump.
And that's what I'm saying. And that was even before he was in office. He wasn't.
He also used to be a Democrat.
Yeah,
Trump.
And publicly said that he supported Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Donated to them.
If Republicans that support him can't see that shit there riles people up to no end, then we just don't live in the same world, and we are headed towards a nosedive. And it just is what it is. But it's going to take somebody rational that believes in this man to be like, listen, we can agree on the policy, but like, we've got to tone down the rhetoric. Look what it's doing. It is not helping at all.
So let's say we agree on that Trump's rhetoric is awful.
Yeah.
Do we agree that the counter is also true?
Yeah, but it is apples to apples.
Because only one of them led to somebody getting shot.
We don't know why he got shot.
Yeah, I think that putting that in that is like...
You have no idea why.
Okay, only one guy has gotten shot.
True.
I mean,
but that doesn't mean that...
Okay, there was
one guy...
Actually, every time we see a politician get shot, it's a Republican, but that's another discussion.
Yeah, if you want
Abraham Lincoln.
Lincoln as a Republican,
Scalise.
Sure.
Every time somebody gets shot, it's a Republican.
Yeah.
There was a political party switch.
Like, no, so we're talking about 10 years ago, not Abraham Lincoln.
Nancy Pelosi's husband got attacked by a hammer.
That is true.
That's true.
Gifford.
There was that one guy that got Gifford got shot
multiple times. Yeah, outside a campaign rally.
There was a guy that shot into the White House. There was also another guy that broke into the White House in 2014 with a knife. He got actually into the White House. Did you guys hear about that? He got into the presidential mansion with a knife.
I feel like I remember hearing about that.
Like, whoops, our bad.
Also, I did just want to go back. I feel it's important. The AP has graded the claim that To Kill a Mockingbird was banned in Florida false. It was removed from the Palm Beach County libraries as part of a review, later returned, and the banned book list shared across social media this week is also incorrect.
I'll look up what they have banned so far. It's not just
somebody forgot to return it. It was just too good. You know what? I've never read that book.
What, To Kill a Mockingbird?
Yeah, I need to read it. Add that to the list. That, Catcher in the Rye. But the Catcher in the Rye...
You don't need to read Catcher in the Rye.
That might be one of those assassination books.
It's like one of the worst books ever.
You guys want to get to some weird Bible stories?
Yep.
Yeah.
I've got a bunch.
This is my wheelhouse.
So yeah, Chap, so real quick, give us your background in seminary, being a pastor.
All right. So my grandfather was a pastor for 50 years for the Southern Baptist Convention. So I grew up in church, and when I was in high school is when I started like interning. I interned at this mega church that averaged like 6,500 like people every single Sunday. And then whenever I graduated high school, I became like the main like associate youth pastor for that. And so then I decided that I wanted to go to Bible school, and I went to Bible school originally in Florida at a school called the Baptist College of Florida. And then after that, I went to Southeastern Seminary in North Carolina and studied the history of ideas and divinity.
What are the dorms like at that college?
Lots of glory holes. There's it's basically like any other, like a real shitty church camp type of look.
Yeah.
Basic dorms, like totally normal.
Okay, so I'm glad that you have some background. I'm curious to know if you've heard of all of these or any of them. Are you familiar with the 42 young men that got mauled by bears because
they made fun of is it Isaiah?
Elisha.
Oh,
Elisha.
Yeah. So they called him like a fat old man, and he was like, "Okay, well, here's a bunch of bears."
And he was
they're
bald.
kids.
They made fun of him for being bald.
Yeah, it was children too.
So it's Kings 2, 23 through 25.
Yeah.
Which one? Which
Second
Kings?
Second Kings.
Second Kings. Sorry, Kings
it's not
2.
Specified.
Second Kings.
Kings 2. We're back at it again.
Then he went up from there to Bethel, and as he was going up by the way, young lads came out from the city and mocked him and said to him, "Go up, you bald head. You bald head.
You
Go
bald
up."
bitch.
When he looked behind him and saw them, he cursed them in the name of the Lord. Then 2 female bears came out of the woods and tore up 42 lads of their number. And then he went from there to Mount Carmel, and from there he returned to Samaria.
And that's it. That's the story.
The entire story. So what can we take from that? Like, just don't make fun of bald people?
Yeah, what goes around comes around.
Or he'll get attacked by 2 bears?
That's not even the craziest Elisha story.
What's the craziest one?
He was walking along with Elijah and Elisha, and
That must have got confusing.
and they were, I believe, so Elijah like splits, I think it was the Jordan River, similar to Moses. River splits, and then Elijah, a chariot of fire comes down. He gets in it, goes up to heaven.
He just rides away?
Yeah.
He's like, peace?
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of a road trip?
Yep.
It's a bad road trip partner.
Mm-hmm.
Elisha, did he summon the bears? Or did the bears just show up and have his back?
I think he was just so godly that he was like, I need some bears down here ASAP. And then then they showed up.
So they got him.
Yep.
So just don't make fun of bald people.
Mm-mm.
Don't do it. Did you hear about when God told Moses that he didn't want food offerings at his temple from like dwarves and people with fucked up balls? Leviticus 21, 16 through 23.
I don't want food from people with fucked up balls either.
That's true.
I'm going to
Like,
start making like, hey, let me see them things.
when you go to a restaurant, let me tell your cook to come out here real quick.
Like a testicle sommelier where
Yeah.
they come and put them on the table and have you give it a little whirl and a sniff and be like, yeah, I'll take the full bottle.
God only wanted food from normal people, from regular people. So the Lord said to Moses, "Say to Aaron, for the generations to come, none of your descendants who has a defect may come near to offer the food of his God. No man who has any defect may come near. No man who is blind or lame, disfigured or deformed," big T with your arm. "No man with a crippled foot or hand, or who is a hunchback or dwarf, who has any eye defect, or who has festering or running sores or damaged testicles." You had me with the festering running sores,
Yeah.
just for the germ's sake. But
What kind of damage we talking?
I don't know, what is damaged testicles? Does that mean infertile?
I have a vasectomy. Am I damaged?
Damn it! Well, that's not your testicle, right? That's your
It's the vas deferens.
The vas
yeah.
deferens has been soldered.
Yeah, mine's been completely obliterated. Yeah.
Did they tie it?
No, mine was lasered up.
They just they heated it up and burned
The way
it?
that it was at the time, military bases, that there was no option. Like if you're getting it, you were getting it. You weren't being able to overturn it.
You can't reverse it.
Yeah.
There's no going back.
Yeah.
Arian, you got your shit snipped, right?
Set the appointment, dog, and I just never went, man. Yeah, I need it.
Does that
remake
work?
it?
Is that an effective way of getting a vasectomy?
No, that is ineffective.
So you want to know what it feels like? It's like
I do.
if you take your testicle, take one of them,
Mm-hmm.
pinch at about 15-20% strength, where it starts to hurt a
Like
little
on
bit,
the actual ball.
and you can feel you can start to feel it a little bit in your chest and belly.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
That's all.
Yeah, it's not.
Wait,
I was
you ain't sleep for it?
no, it's local. Like it's not bad at all. I was
put me
I was
down.
doing squats 3 days later.
Nah, put me down.
I mean, that's the one.
Granted, I have very small testicles too.
That's the reason. That's the reason Arian wants to get
wildly
this
small.
surgery done, is so that they can hook him up with the anesthesia.
Yeah.
Those are facts. I love anesthesia. Yeah, I need to redo it. It was really just on some lazy shit, like they wanted me to set the date, and I just never got back to, it's my fault. I dropped the ball. No pun intended.
Opening weekend for the NFL would be a good time to do it.
It
Like,
would be.
What's that?
You just have games on all day. You just get to sit there, hang out, drink a little whiskey. It's nice.
The most common time for it is the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. So
Which I think
guys
it's
can
to be
take those days
second
off
weekend.
work.
Second weekend is the time to do it.
I don't know. The
But
first
then,
weekend,
but
'cause you get-
Thursday and Friday, then there's no games during the day, Thursday and Friday.
You only need 2 days of recovery.
No, I
No.
know, but I'm saying you do it. People do it the first weekend because that's when there's games like noon to midnight. Second weekend, they're all at night, so you don't need the days off.
Yeah. So
Oh,
first,
round of 32 is what I was thinking.
well,
Is that,
But that's the Saturday, Sunday, so you already have
okay.
that.
Yeah. So the first weekend, if you get it done on that Wednesday or Thursday, maybe a Thursday morning, Then you just get days where you're off work sitting on a couch. And you better believe if I'm getting my testicle surgery, I'm gonna milk it for all it's worth.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna let anybody know that's just like a 2-day recovery. I'm gonna say no. I need the entire weekend. I feel like I get 4 days.
I did wild card weekend for the NFL was mine.
That's a good one too. That's a really good one. Now with Super Wild Card weekend,
You can get all kinds of work done.
You get an extra day. Yeah. Just get a tuck.
Yeah. Get your wisdom teeth taken out and a vasectomy all at the same time.
What? Put some Botox into my dick.
That would, if you do that, don't sweat.
Why?
If you don't sweat.
Oh, you stop sweating?
If you inject your testicles with Botox or your armpits, they don't sweat.
Can you get your testicles Botox so you get a nice smooth sack?
Yeah, where they look like, oh yeah.
Just no wrinkles at all?
Yeah.
That's not one of the most unhealthy shit you could do is make it so you don't sweat. Isn't that how you release like toxins?
Oh yeah, but it would be nice though. Like you still sweat everywhere else. If I could lock in the sweat in certain zones, brother, sign me up.
And it's just botulism you're putting into your body. It's not that bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
I don't know enough about it, dog.
I'm going to be going around with the smoothest sack in America. No wrinkles. It's going to look like you steamed that motherfucker.
I talked about that on the Chaps and Kate show one time. I wanted to see if I could go to like a plastic surgeon to just give me the most beautiful penis and balls in the history of the world. And he said that one of the things they do for people that are super concerned about their testicles being ugly is that they'll, like after they're done having kids, they'll do a voluntary removal of a testicle. And they have these things that look like almost, if you boil the shit out of an egg to the point where the shell comes off and then you keep boiling it, where it's almost like translucent, but it's a little bit tan. They have those that are like the perfect shape of eggs. They'll put that into your testicle and make the skin around your testicle completely smooth, where it looks like two little egg-shaped cue balls.
So they just give you, your balls are bigger.
Yeah.
But they're in case...
multiple sizes. Don't want to just say bigger. They could still be small or they could be huge. It's kind of like tits.
You can't make them smaller though. There's no testicle reduction surgery.
No, you remove the actual testicle there.
It's like dogs when they get neutered. Sometimes they sell those. They're called nudicles, where you can put fake balls into your dog so your dog doesn't feel bad about getting neutered.
Oh, man, I'd get Gus like tennis ball size thing. That dude be swinging low like a chariot.
So, yeah, don't try to serve any food to the Lord if you've got fucked up testicles or if you're blind, lame, disfigured, deformed. Big T, your arm. This looks like a crazy contraption that you have on right now.
Are you like Joe Burrow?
So this is the new brace.
Like JJ Watt, right?
Which is, so right now I can't really bend my arm at all, but as you go to physical therapy and you're able to bend it, this you can, so if you can bend it 40 degrees, you set it to 40 and it'll bend 40 degrees.
And you got a gnarly scar.
Yeah.
You did not know it was going to be that big?
I was not anticipating that scar.
You had surgery? You had surgery on it? Yeah.
Were you thinking it was just going to be like scoped?
No, I knew there'd be a scar, but it was big.
How far does it go?
I mean, it's just most of the elbow. I just sent Chaps the picture. It's like an S. It's probably
this is
7
from a
inches
golf
long.
cart injury, bro.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you said it on the pod. What happened?
So I was driving the golf cart. It was on a slope. I sent that to you a long time ago because the air was loud. It was on a slope, and it just kind of started tipping over, and it fell onto me, and I snapped my arm in half.
Like you tried to brace yourself, and that's what snapped it?
It landed on top of me. I don't remember really, I guess, and my arm so I broke my elbow really bad.
Was it user error or?
I mean, it probably partly was, but it was, I wish I could show you like where it was on the course and you'd be like, that's crazy. Like where you had to drive onto the fairway.
Damn.
We're going to go back. We're going to go back one day and I'm going to show you and you'll be like, what? That's insane that's like that.
You even fucked up our Break 80 series, man.
I know. I don't know when I'm going to, I was very concerned yesterday when they took the cast off, and I was like, I should be able. I'll be good to go now, and I couldn't bend it at all.
Oh no,
that's not good.
I was in a shoulder cast because I had labrum surgery on my shoulder, so I was like up like this, like you're putting your arm for the audio listeners, so you can put your arm around somebody, I was up in a splint like that for I think a month and a half, maybe 2 months, something like that. It was crazy. And I thought like, oh, I can't wait for nothing else than to just put that bitch down. And when they took it off, I couldn't even do it. It
I
hurt
know.
so bad. And so I had to like walk around with a towel because I couldn't extend it down all the way. So now I think your arm just like gets stuck in a certain spot and it gets comfortable there.
Yeah, so I got to go to physical therapy, and hopefully they can fix it.
Is that impacting your gaming?
Yes, but not tremendously. Like I just got to be like that.
You just go full extension.
Yeah.
There's a dude that that's a veteran guy who has both of his arms were lost, and he games with his toes.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
his
how you
name
do
is he does primarily Call of Duty, but his name is Toe You Up.
Love
That's
that.
good. I think I've seen some of his clips. Dude is insane.
That's crazy to play. I couldn't even hold a controller with my feet.
It's remarkable how fast his toes move. He's like shooting.
And you don't have like a
Crazy.
thumb,
No,
so that's crazy.
he like puts one of his legs up and kind of like rubs it somehow, and then his other toe is like the controller. You can look him up.
I'm
Toe
going
You
to
Up.
look.
How much money do you think we could make off Big T gaming with his feet?
Well, I can play with my hands.
Like
so.
any
OnlyFans.
sickos out there? Yeah.
Toe you
What
up.
size are those, Big T?
He might have
17.
one. He might have one arm.
Size
Are any of
17
y'all feet people?
gaming?
No, I'm
No.
not feet people.
Not
I don't get
interested. Don't get it
Man,
either.
I don't understand that shit, though. I'm curious. I mean, y'all
There's so
try
much
anything
other
once.
nice stuff. Yeah,
I'm not anti. I just don't get it. I
Yeah.
don't get why that's.
Oh no, everybody's entitled to their own proclivities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever gets you going.
But-
man.
but
I'm just,
what
I'm
makes
very
you-
curious about what's sexy about a foot.
Yeah, what makes you get attracted to feet?
Yeah, like what's a good foot or a bad foot?
Do you think a lot of people that are attracted to feet have like the same experience when they're younger? Like, do they go through a trauma that makes them attracted to feet?
Personally, I blame Cinderella.
Yeah, the glass slipper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Prince Charming, huge feet guy.
big feet guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. Are there women that are attracted to guys' feet, or is it just
Can't
guys
be.
No way.
that are
Can't
attracted to
be.
feet? Mad Dog McKenzie, are you familiar with any women that are into guys' feet, dudes' feet?
Oh hell no.
Yeah, no.
What about lesbians that are into ladies' feet?
I don't know any lesbians that are into other women's feet.
It's
no.
definitely more likely than women being into men feet. Though.
Yeah,
I don't
no-
think
Yeah.
that's like a
No,
category.
I've never seen a man's foot that I've been like, that's a good no.
No, just you can say that about just dudes' bodies in general.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've never looked at a man's foot and been like, that's a well maintained foot.
Yeah.
I've also heard that women don't care about the look of a penis either. They're not like, that's a delicious looking.
I'm
I've
gonna
heard
go
that.
no comment on here.
I've heard differently, brother.
Oh, maybe that's just me.
I've heard that.
I'm just not gonna
Anybody have a
answer-
slide whistle?
I'm not gonna answer my opinion.
I've heard there are some things out there that are not attractive.
Oh, those things be thanging sometimes.
Yeah.
That's what
I'll
I've
just
heard.
like I'm not gonna say anything.
I can just hear. I hear secondhand shit. So like I've gotten compliments before when
Yeah,
Because
you're-
I was
you
saying-
didn't want to say it, but you're
I'll
like,
keep it
I
real.
gotta
I'll
go.
keep
He does.
I'll
He
keep
said
it- I'll
it
keep it-
13 times.
Me
I
too.
keep it a me. I keep it a me. Like
I wanna ask a question right
I'll
now.
compliment it and I'll be like, what do you mean? And they'll be like, man, there's some things out there. They be like, yours is it's nice looking. It's nice looking.
So
A
you've
handsome
had women
penis.
tell you that you have like a nice looking one?
I've heard that. Yeah,
How many times?
it's actually
mean-
pretty.
Arian has also been with a lot of women. There's a lot of more experiences that you're able to have.
Yes, it's
That's kind of slut shaming that you just did. That's kind of crazy.
How did I say
Good
that?
point, Big T.
in a-
No, that's
Good
kinda
point.
crazy.
Hey, I
Yeah.
enjoy it.
With your
I-
experience.
Yeah,
I
we don't
enjoyed my
slut shame,
20s,
yeah.
brother. I enjoyed my 20s.
Okay.
I don't shy away from it. But I've heard that.
You've just had more opportunities
You mean
than
tell
most.
me a successful
that a lot.
NFL player was having sex? I don't believe
Yeah,
it.
he's just had
I
more
hate to-
opportunities
Hate
than
to
most
be the
are
one to break
granted.
it to you, Chad.
Good for
going
Arian. I'm
down.
happy for him.
You guys be fucking.
Get your
Um,
bag.
Speaking of penises, I did this on the rundown. We talked about it earlier. There's a new dating app that's called Size Him, and it
What?
requires people to submit pictures of your hands.
I heard about that. Yeah.
So they take pictures of your hands in 20 different ways. They evaluate what your hands look like, and they'll match you to a partner based on their hands, like which sizes would be appropriate, which sizes fit with each other the best, what's enjoyable, where you have like a husband dick, a boyfriend dick, or we're just met at the bar kind of dick. And it says that
What's the difference between those three?
What?
Is just met at the bar, is that bigger?
Yeah, you go down progressively in size.
Boyfriend dick is number 2.
Boyfriend dick is number 2.
Yeah.
But boyfriend dick could turn in if you get used to it into husband dick.
There was a girl in college that told me that one time, boyfriend dick. And I didn't know, I still to this day didn't know if that was a compliment.
I think that's a good thing. Because I don't think that like
Did
the
you had
girth
a boyfriend
master.
dick?
Yeah, but it felt like a slam. It felt like okay.
One you can settle down with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like,
That's like
But
that's not a bad thing. I don't think.
Yeah.
Or that's like
Yeah.
when girls say it's the perfect size.
Yeah.
That's boyfriend dick.
Your
Perfect
boyfriend dick.
size.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
You're not doing anything great, but you're doing the best you can.
I can live with that. I've been. That actually feels great, like a weight off my shoulders, because all these years I thought it was like the meanest, most underhanded compliment.
No, that's
No.
second tier. You
Okay,
got a
all right,
second tier
yeah.
dick. That's
Fuck
pretty
yeah,
good.
Fuck yeah, C+.
So this app also breaks it down into 7 different types of penises. And let's see. One, can you name? Do you think you can name any of them?
Any of the types of penises?
Yeah. Some are fruits and some are just common terms. Some are fungi.
Okay.
Obviously.
Yeah. So mushroom would be the one I was going to
Yeah.
go with. We talked about Mr. Trump has apparently
Yeah.
the mushroom.
Why do we know that?
Stormy
Daniels.
Yeah.
Oh,
by the way,
she out here.
I'm kicking myself. I just spent a week in Lake Tahoe at the American Century Championship. That's the site, allegedly, of the Trump Stormy Daniels encounter.
Oh man, you should have got that room.
I didn't do any sightseeing. Yeah.
Damn. So here's the 7 types that they say. Banana,
Yeah.
Okay.
obviously. Then there's the bender.
What's the difference?
I don't know. And they don't tell you what the difference are, but there's a bender. What I think it is like it goes to the right. Like,
Up, down, or side? Banana might
banana's
be up and down. Okay.
and then you have a bender that goes
Okay.
sideways. Next up is a cucumber.
Wait, and they can tell if your dick's curved by your hand?
Yeah, I think it's if your pinky, see how my pinky goes out just a little bit?
Yeah.
That's how they identify if you're a bender or not. The next one, I don't agree with this one being a category. Cucumbers. There's too much variance in a cucumber to have that.
What is
That's
what's
just-
a
that just
cucumber?
means
Just straight?
It got to be just thick, right? Just really
Thick
thick.
and
Yeah,
straight?
thick and straight. Yeah, but with a smaller end, right? Because you don't have cucumbers with a fat end.
Okay.
So it goes down. I know exactly a porn star they're talking about there. There's also a big shaft,
Okay.
which I don't know the difference between big shaft and cucumber.
Cucumber seems
Those
like it's the
seem there's a
same
lot of
I feel like it's the end,
yeah,
right?
like that Venn diagram seems like there's a lot of crossover. Next, big head. Hey, big head.
Yeah.
A big head.
And then you got the mushroom.
Mushroom and big head seem like the same though.
Yeah,
Cousins.
it does. I think there's a lot of overlap between banana, bender, cucumber. And then finally, the worst category to be in, pencil.
Oh no.
You can't pencil. You can't
Oh,
do
no.
it.
They should tell you what you are when you sign up.
I think that would make a lot of people get off that app.
Don't
Yeah.
you know?
No, but I'm saying like what they're labeling you as.
Don't
if
you
you're-
know?
If you're on that dating app though.
If you have a banana dick, wouldn't you kind of have figured that out by now?
Probably. But
Or like a mushroom dick?
but-
If you have a mushroom dick, I think you would know.
I think
Oh, yeah, you definitely know that
I think
one.
that some guys might think that they're big shaft and they end up in pencil.
Oh, no.
I don't think there's
I
anybody.
think you
I think if you
underestimate your dick
You
more
think
than
so?
anything else.
yeah, I think if you small down there, you know.
It would be helpful if you're on that app to know what the opposite sex is seeing, like what you're being labeled as to them.
Like, do you have body dysmorphia for your penis?
yeah, yeah. You
I
might.
do think it's kind of fucked up though. I think it's kind of fucked up because it's like it's nothing a dude can control, right? And so it's like I've heard cats being shamed before, and it's nothing. I've never really taken pride in it before. It's not, you know what I'm saying? It's not. I don't think it's something to boast of. I was born how I was born. Like dudes, yeah, you can't control that. So it's kind of fucked up that women shame dudes that ain't, you know what I mean? Packaged.
Especially when they can get their deficiencies rounded up for like
It's generally
for
acceptable.
12 grand.
Yeah.
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 You can't do that. You can't add an extender.
You can't. Aren't there penis enlargement surgeries?
The only time I've heard of that is like a guy that died getting one,
Yeah.
which is the worst way to die, I think.
Yeah.
Didn't John Wayne Bobbitt have
He had it put back on.
But I think he got an extended too.
That's like if I took my car in and they're like changing the starter, the carburetor's fucked up. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Just change the spark plugs too.
Yeah.
It's like,
Hey, that's
be
before
reattaching
the time. I forgot all about that story, bro.
Yeah.
Lorena Bobbitt.
Yep.
Was he cheating or some shit like that?
I don't know what it was, but that guy's also a Marine. Shout out.
I think he was cheating, and she found out. She cut his dick off.
She cut his shit
And then
off,
tossed
bro.
it on the highway when she was driving down the road.
Bro, that's one of the worst things that could happen to somebody.
Did you remember that part of the story?
I just remember that
they found it.
They found it in a field, right?
Yeah, because she threw it out the window while she was driving.
What's she up to these days?
I think she's dead.
Is she really?
I think she got murdered.
What?
I think so.
Lorena Bobbitt.
Lorena Bobbitt were a former couple. Lorena severed her husband John's penis on June 23rd at their home in Manassas, Virginia. It's right next to where I grew up.
Yeah, your old stomping ground.
It's also called Manasses, which is always good for a laugh. She said in a court hearing she came home that evening, her husband had raped her. After then, he went to sleep. She got out of bed, went to the kitchen for a drink of water. She grabbed an 8-inch Ginsu carving knife, returned to the bedroom, pulled back the bed sheets, cut off his dick. Then she drove away in a car. After a length of time driving and struggling to steer with one hand due to holding the penis, she threw the penis out the window into a roadside field on Maplewood Drive.
Imagine being on one of those like adopt a highway groups.
Yeah.
And you're like, should I hit it with this pokey stick or not?
She eventually stopped and called 911, telling them what she had done and where the penis could be found. John's penis was found after an exhaustive search, and after being washed with antiseptic and packed in saline ice, it was reattached in the hospital where he was treated. The operation took 9.5 hours.
Oh my God.
John went on to star in 2 porno films in the 90s.
Hey, yo.
And said in 2018 that his penis is back to normal.
Hell yeah.
Comeback player of the year.
Prove it.
John went on to accumulate a record of serious abuse allegations and criminal convictions.
Well, maybe.
Isn't she dead though?
I'm trying to find out what happened to her.
Nah, it says she's still alive.
She was found not guilty by reason of insanity caused by an irresistible impulse to sexually wound John.
Whoa.
And then the aftermath, we go on for John. No, I think.
No, she's alive.
I think she's alive.
Yeah.
What's she up to these days?
Yeah, so that's something I didn't know, that she accused him of spousal rape. I thought he just cheated. He just cheated or something. Well, damn, that ain't the answer. But I mean, she ain't. You gotta do what you gotta do, man. Don't do that though.
It's so hard to get temporary insanity too.
Yeah,
like accepted as a plea.
It's always up in like TV shows.
Yeah, and
like,
it
maybe
never
I'll just,
really happens in real life.
Maybe I'll plead insanity for it, but I think if you plead insanity, you have to go to like a psychiatric hospital, obviously, but then you're kept there until you're not insane anymore, and it's very hard to get out of that.
So if she was charged and he wasn't, does that make her allegations unfounded? Because you would think that even if he had his dick cut off, that they would still charge him for spousal rape.
Right. You would think so. Expert witnesses for both sides testified he had mentally and physically battered her. The abuse was escalating, and she lived in constant fear.
Well, if that's true, you deserve to have your dick cut off.
And John got acquitted too. He was accused of marital sexual assault, and the jury acquitted him.
That could be like a sympathy acquittal.
So it's just like, let's do a do-over.
Yeah.
Let's just turn the page back and
call it even Steven.
Pretend like none of that ever happened.
Outrageous.
So she underwent a 45-day evaluation period, after which she got released. So she was in the hospital for 45 days. And then they finalized the divorce afterwards. All right. I wanted to say no harm, no foul, but it sounds like there was
lots of harm and lots of fouls.
Terrible referees.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were really letting them play that.
Red cards all over the place.
Yeah.
I need to upgrade that to a flagrant 2.
Yeah. Back to the Bible.
Yeah.
Which
Did you know that Moses grew horns when he was on Mount Sinai? So Moses, on behalf of the Israelites, this is in the book of Exodus, he made a covenant with God on Mount Sinai. In the covenant, God promised that the Israelites
Israelites, yeah.
Israelites will take control of a vast amount of land in the Levant, but in return must worship God and follow the Ten Commandments. Moses chisels the covenant onto 2 stone tablets after he returned from Mount Sinai. His face has been transformed, and he is wearing a veil. Most modern translations say that it's shown, or some such synonym, but it's a guess because the Hebrew word karan, doesn't appear anywhere else in the Bible. One possibility is that the word karan also means horns because it is similar to a common Hebrew noun, karen, which means horn. In other words, Moses might have grown horns after making the covenant with God. Some people in the Middle Ages believed that Moses had grown horns and that much medieval artwork, as well as earlier and later work, depicts Moses with horns. The iconography of the ancient Near East shows the prevalence of horns on gods and goddesses, the association of horns with exceptional beings and special power.
Yeah, I do remember this conversation from class, and they said that it was more allegorical, that because he was up there getting it because of the golden calf, that he came down as a mature version, like I am above all gods, and that was the reason why there's no gods before me. I am the main golden calf.
I feel like gods used to have horns back in ancient Greece, but I think a lot of them were offsprings of Zeus. Zeus was a horny dude.
Yeah, if I was a god, I'd want to be horned up.
Zeus would fuck anything that moved.
Oh hell yeah!
It didn't matter. So he had a lot of offspring.
He's like Creed.
Yeah, yeah. They had the minotaurs. Which one is the one with the body of a human and head of a cow?
And that centaur?
Is that centaur?
Oh, head of a cow?
Or head of a bull. There was the minotaur and the centaur that both were half and half, but one was the body of a human, the other was the body of a bull.
A body of a human and a bull, worthless.
Yeah. Head of a human.
Head of a human, arms of a human.
Yeah.
Legs and body of a horse. Now you're cooking.
I think that might be the centaur. Because I think the minotaur was in the labyrinth, right?
I'm not sure.
Where you had to escape this maze because there was this giant thing with horns running after you.
Either way, the one that has the horse body and legs, I would love to watch the one with the human hands too, smoking a cigarette outside of a club.
Yeah.
Just hanging out. Oh, look at my hooves.
Way more functional.
Mm-hmm.
Another Moses story. At one point, God decided to kill Moses, but you know what stopped him? Moses' wife put their son's foreskin blood on his feet. So Moses and his family were spending
what the hell?
Yeah, spending time in Midian when God ordered him to return to Egypt. So Moses put his wife and sons on a donkey. They began the journey back. Along the way, they had an encounter with the Lord. At a lodging place on the way, the Lord met Moses and was about to kill him. But Zipporah took a flint knife, cut off her son's foreskin, and touched Moses' feet with it. "Surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me," she said. So the Lord let him alone. At that time, she said, "bridegroom of blood," referring to circumcision. So I don't know why that appealed, but apparently it worked.
Circumcision was hot in the streets in the Old Testament.
Maybe kind of a Lorena
Just
Bobbitt
foreskin in
situation
general.
where she just cut the tip off. Wow, this lady's crazy.
Does that say Moses' tip or somebody or their sons?
It was Moses' son. Circumcised him right then. What? So speaking of penises and the Bible,
yeah,
why did circumcision become a thing? Like a religious thing?
I have no idea.
Because there's another foreskin story.
But if you're getting that story on Mount Sinai, that might be one that you try to ignore, right? Like that you have, you just kind of forgot about that one. The whole foreskin thing was kind of weird. God, can we do something else?
Yeah, there's another foreskin story in here. I'm pulling it up right now. But there's a lot of that going on in the Bible. Let's see, foreskin. Do a little Control F for foreskin.
When we were talking about preterism earlier with the guest, when he was talking about how vicious it was in 66 to 70 AD when Nero was the Caesar, one of the things that he would require of his people would to be go around and bring back sacks of 100 foreskins.
That's a lot of foreskins.
Yep.
How do you get that many?
I think you just got to cut them off 100 dicks.
Do you think you cut them off alive dicks or dead dicks?
Not sure.
I think that was alive. The point was, I thought the point was that it was to show that you had killed those people.
I think you do.
Like scalping.
Scalps, yeah.
But that's
100 heads. That's a lot to carry.
Yeah. especially if you're carrying in wine sacks.
Okay, so that's what it is. King Saul demanded 100 foreskins from David to marry his daughter. Saul was the king of Israel. David was his popular general. As a result, Saul feared David's power and wanted him killed. So when David asked to be married to Saul's daughter, the sadistic king demanded a difficult and perilous payment. Saul asked for 100 Philistine foreskins. Dave went the extra mile and ended up delivering 200 foreskins from Philistines that he killed. So dead foreskins. According to the passage, David and his men sat there and counted them out to the king. When royalty demands a bunch of foreskins, you want to make sure you don't shortchange them. That was quite a presentation.
I'm just going to say, if you did that now, that's a war crime, brother. You can't be killing people and then pull their pants down and take the tip of their dick off.
How many foreskins do you think Tim Tebow's got on his belt, though?
He
He did that. He went to the Philippines and circumcised a bunch of babies.
I'd probably put it at a smooth 3.
You think
Isn't that
3
weird,
hundo.
dog?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely weird.
That's weird as fuck, fam. And I'm not even on insinuating anything. It's just an odd thing to want to do.
I watched this video about circumcision and how it affects like sexual pleasure. I had no idea. Get screwed over.
Oh, lay it on me. I don't know what's happening. Lay it on me.
So apparently, like underneath the foreskin is where it's supposed to be the most sensitive. Like your dick is supposed to be the most sensitive.
The frenulum.
Yeah. That's cut a lot of times in circumcision. So it's essentially like what's turned into like the clitoris of the dick, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And it gets cut. So sex is not as pleasurable.
There are a bunch of people. There's a big anti-circumcision movement out there.
I think I'm against it. If I had a penis haver, I would. I don't think I would.
You don't think so?
No, because if that part of pleasure is true, like you want your kids to have the best life they can.
But cleaning.
Isn't it?
You got to clean your ears. I don't understand. Like maybe that's difficult if you're in the Amazon or something.
Yeah.
But like hanging out in like Chicago, you have access to a rag.
I think I would just want their dick to be normal. Whatever all the other dicks look like, that's what I want their dick to look like.
Yeah. There is a lot of roasting for.
Yeah, I don't want. Yeah, the roasting.
But maybe that'll flip.
Rooms. Yeah, but these dudes show up at like the Super Bowl. They show up at big just media events, and they wear all white suits, except they've got a big splattering of fake blood on their crotch.
They come to Tennessee all the time.
Yeah, they hold up signs being like, "You took away my pleasure. I hate my parents." So here's the.
So real quick. This is what I thought. I just looked it up for sure. Studies have shown that uncircumcised men are more likely to acquire sexually transmitted infections than circumcised men.
More likely, or
yes,
less likely?
They're more likely. So if you're not circumcised, you're more likely to contract STIs.
Wait, if you're not.
If you got the flap, you can get the clap.
Correct. Yeah.
I think that just means that like more shit gets trapped in there.
Right. I think it's bacterially, and it's like
it doesn't breathe.
Yeah, you gotta let that thing breathe.
Yeah,
you got a responsibility.
Yeah, I got I got my dick in like Nike Dry Fit. It's moisture wicking technology. That's what.
Also, non-circumcised folks, the ultimate growers, not showers. Because that thing's like kept in a suitcase.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, it's like one of those cans where you pop it out and a snake comes out of it.
So this is how Tim Tebow spent his spring break. This is when he was at Florida. He had already won the Heisman. He went to the Philippines, and according to Dave Curtis of the Orlando Sentinel, helped circumcised impoverished children. He was visiting an orphanage in his father's ministry, and he assisted with the care of locals who walked miles to the temporary clinic. And he said, the first time it was nerve-wracking. Hands were shaking a little bit. I mean, I'm cutting somebody. You can't do those kinds of things in the United States, but those people really needed the surgeries. We needed to help them. It's still kind of strange.
I just feel bad for the first little kid that with his hand shaking and Tim Tebow approaching. This is his first penis that he's circumcising, and you're like, as soon as you get the first one out the way, it's easy after that, man.
It should be like being a tattoo apprentice, where the first one you do has got to be on yourself.
Yep. Yep. Would you rather it be Tim Tebow that's coming up to you to circumcise you, or like a shitty a shitty college quarterback.
Or Lorena Bobbitt.
I feel like I would rather be Tebow. Like I've seen him pound the rock before. He doesn't fumble.
That's
and
true.
He wins.
Yeah.
Also, that's the ultimate autograph.
Yeah.
Like some people get, sign my yearbook, sign my just steno pad that I brought, sign this 8x11 piece of paper. No, Tim Tebow actually is responsible for how my penis looks.
You just reminded me of something when you said he doesn't fumble. Tell me what y'all would rather have. When I got this surgery done, it was like 7 a.m. and the surgeon came in at 6:30, whatever. He's like, you good to go? I was like, yeah. I mean, I guess the question is, are you? Like, it doesn't matter what I'm ready. He goes, yeah, I'm very caffeinated, ready to go. And I was like, I don't know that that's what I want to hear from my surgeon.
Yeah, highly jittery right now.
I was like, do you want your guy sleepy or like he's had a lot of coffee?
And how long was the surgery?
I'm on my
like an hour.
I'm with Arian. I would rather have him be like hyper vigilant.
Yeah, take a smelling salt.
But what if that makes your hands?
Tebow definitely rips salts.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have the option of Tim Tebow coming in or Brody Croyle walking in, like which one are you going to let cut into your dick?
Tebow.
It's got to be Tebow. But yeah, Big T in that circumstance, I would rather over caffeinated than under.
I guess.
All right, we got some more Bible stories here. There's a lot of penis talk in the Bible episode, almost as much as the
probably why I
Sigmund
liked
Freud.
it so much. Yeah.
Did you know that God can demote other gods? So Judaism and Christianity both are monotheistic, obviously. The Bible implies that other gods exist. One example was from the Old Testament, Psalm 82, which says, God presides in the great assembly. He renders judgment among the gods. The gods know nothing. They understand nothing. They walk about in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are shaken. From the passage, it suggests that the Almighty has power over other godly figures and can demote them. In the following passage, God then announces he has decided to demote the other gods, turning them into mortals. I said, you are gods, you are sons of the Most High, but you will die like mere mortals. You will fall like every other ruler or every other prince, which we get into when we talk to Dan McClellan, that very exchange. Who knows if they were actually gods or if they called themselves gods, and this was God saying, well, you're actually not. Or if God ran like a farm system.
I had this thought when I was like 8 or 9. And I remember telling my dad, because I grew up Muslim originally. And so I was like, I remember asking him, I was like, hey, yo, what if God is like just one of the gods of just like our universe, and there's like a bunch of other gods that govern the other universes, and they all meet up and have like a convention? And he was like, no, son, no. There's only one God. I was like, oh, okay, damn. That would be cool.
It's a lot of stuff to be responsible for too.
Yeah.
He just shot my idea down though. I was pretty upset. I was like, damn, I thought I figured out the universe at 9.
There's a lot of LDS belief in that.
Yeah, I know.
I think a lot of kids think that they understand the universe. Like I thought I had a very unique thought when I was young, and then Men in Black came around, and I was like, they stole my brain's idea. The fact that like our Earth was like an atom that was part of the galaxy, which is kind of like an atom that revolves around things in the universe. So what we see on Earth, our atoms are just atoms inside of other atoms inside of other atoms. And then they did the whole Orion's belt thing with the cat that had the galaxy around his neck.
The galaxy is in Orion's belt.
Yeah, that fucking cat. And then I'm like, damn, they stole my idea. Maybe I don't have it all figured out.
Yeah.
We got some other fun stories here. One time Jesus got really pissed off at a fig tree. So Jesus was walking. He was on his way. This is Matthew 21, 18 through 22. Early in the morning, as Jesus was on his way back to the city, he was hungry. Seeing a fig tree by the road, he went up to it but found nothing on it except leaves. Then he said to it, "May you never bear fruit again." Immediately the tree withered. The disciples saw this. They were amazed. "How did the fig tree wither so quickly?" they asked. Jesus replied, "Truly I tell you, if you have faith and do not doubt, not only can you do what was done to the fig tree, but you can also say this to the mountain, 'Go throw yourself into the sea,' and it will be done. If you believe, you will receive whatever you ask for in prayer." So, Chaps, I actually had a question for you about this.
Mm-hmm.
When did Jesus discover that he was different? Like he had it going on. Like he
That-
could do shit.
I think that's the most unknown things in theology. Like, because he's only on the scene for like 3 years. Like the whole biblical story is like 3 years. Like he's born in a manger, and then there's nothing until he really starts his ministry, which is why Christopher Moore's book Lamb is so damn good. Like, have you read that?
I've heard of it.
It's like the story, like the fictitious story of Jesus's early life, and Jesus has a best friend named Lamb, and they like hang out, and he's like, Jesus is always like kind of cheating, but not really cheating, and like what they play, like he uses to control stuff. I think it's a difficult question. Like, how old was he when he realized that? Because you would have to think if you ascribe to Jesus all the traditional tropes, like being omniscient as well, he would know, like as a baby.
Yeah.
Like, how many things would he be cognizant of?
Maybe he got embarrassed, like because he was different from all the other kids, so he tried to act normal for a while, and then he finally learned to embrace that he was God.
What was the walking process like?
Right. Did he start out on a lake?
Yeah. He worked his way up to that.
I don't know.
Like, oh, I'm ready to walk, and just stands up and
Have
starts
you ever
doing it perfect.
Have you ever seen that meme of has Mary pointing down to a little bathtub and Jesus standing on the water going like this?
Jesus would have been awesome on Dude Perfect.
I bet Joseph was thrilled to have him, because if he's perfect at everything, having your house be like totally level and the year zero would be such a flex.
You got to
heard
monetize
Jim
that kid.
Gaffigan talk about Jesus being a carpenter?
Uh-uh.
Oh, it's very funny. I won't do his bit, but it's good. You should go watch it.
All right.
That seems like it would be a job that would be almost beneath him, like too easy.
I think Jesus was a blue collar guy.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, not beneath him in terms of like status, just cutting wood if you're the son of God.
Yeah, especially
Seems
without he
pretty
didn't
easy.
have like a table saw.
Yeah. Big T, what was the story of Jesus and he like got away with something when he was a kid?
There is an apocryphal story of Jesus being with a group of kids. He's a kid also, I believe, or like a teenager. And one of them, now I'm forgetting the whole story. Somebody dies. I'm forgetting most of it now. I need to look it up. But
it's like Jesus might have killed him, but then he also brought him back.
Something
God, that would be so
like
awesome
that.
when you're little.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll need to look it up. But
Trick Shot King Jesus would be awesome. Be sick.
He'd have so many followers on TikTok.
Oh my God. Dude would be a social media star.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And every girl would be like, why can't I find a boy like Jesus?
Hey, I'm Jesus, and I recommend 3G.
some stories deal with Jesus' relationship to a boy named Zeno. Zeno falls from the housetop where Jesus and other boys were playing and dies. The parents accuse Jesus of having pushed Zeno. He returns the dead boy to life for him to testify in favor of Jesus' innocence.
Bring him back. Tell him that I didn't actually kill you.
What a power move.
Yeah, that's good.
That's kind of awesome.
Yeah. Like, go to your room, Jesus. Like, actually, it wasn't me. Get up.
Chaps, what do you know about Sodom and Gomorrah?
Like the cities?
The cities, yeah. Which place would have been which would be the better place to live? Which would be the better place to visit?
Depends on what you're into.
Well, what's the difference?
Well, sodomy.
Yeah.
I mean, if you wanted to do regular sex, I think you head over to Gomorrah.
Is Gomorrah, was that also Party Town?
Yeah, party town. Yep.
But just not as extreme.
Yep. You're not supposed to look back, or you turn to a pillar of salt too.
Yep.
That's what happened. What happens in Gomorrah stays in Gomorrah.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally.
Right. The original Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Sodom was just like literally no holes barred.
Yeah, both of them are supposed to be like totally depraved cities where everybody, including the children, are just like absolute maniacs, that they're having sex all the time, huge orgy parties. The leaving of Gomorrah is, those stories are nuts. Like that, the dad is like, yeah, you could come in and rape my daughters.
Yeah. So Lot, was he the king of Sodom?
No, not the king. No.
So who is Lot?
He's like a religious leader.
Okay. When he fled, this was after God destroyed both cities. Lot's wife was turned into the pillar of salt because she glanced back at the ruins. Once they settled down, Lot's daughters decided that it was their duty to repopulate the area, except their father was the only man around to help do so. On successive nights, the daughters got him drunk and slept with him, waking up pregnant the next morning. When 2 angels visited Lot in Sodom, a group of locals wanted to rape the angels, so Lot offered up his daughters to the crowd instead. But the crowd didn't want the daughters, so God struck the crowd blind and told Lot's family to leave town without looking back. Pretty brutal.
Fucking crazy, bro.
That would make a great movie, though.
It would. Yeah, I mean, Game of Thrones has so much incest in it. It's wild.
Yeah.
When Game of Thrones first came out, because I didn't watch it until I saw the last season as it was coming out, and then I went back and watched the rest of it. But season 1, season 2, when those are coming out and there's just incest all over the place, were people like, yo, what the fuck at first? Or were they just like, fuck it, let's just see where this goes?
Do you think that was the rise of stepbrother porn?
I think it was, yeah. I think the incest porn came after Game of Thrones.
Because like the whole community watching it was kind of like Kombucha Girl, where it's like,
yeah, yeah.
now you can't log into Pornhub without seeing it.
Gross. But wait, maybe.
What are you doing, step bro?
Or the stepmom being stuck is my favorite.
Yeah,
I'm stuck in this window, and she's just like holding on to the window.
Yeah, I'm in this washing machine with my panties completely off, like I always do.
Yeah, where's your underwear? It's all in the wash. I was just doing the laundry.
Doesn't seem like there's actually any laundry in there, though, Mom. Like, what's going on here?
Mom, can't you just take your hands off the washing machine?
I cannot.
No, I'm stuck. You didn't read the title.
Oh, this damn garbage disposal.
Oh, I don't think that there's stuck in garbage disposal porn, is there?
No, just stuck in the sink. Oh, that exists.
That would be
for
brutal. Sure. Cherubs. You know what cherubs are?
Like angels?
Yeah, we see them as being the like little tiny babies that float around, and they're usually they mean love. Mm-hmm. So I think Cupid might be a cherub.
Where the word cherubic comes from.
Which means just like plump.
Angelic face.
Yeah.
Like childish angelic face.
In biblical stories, they're sometimes menacing. In fact, they guard the Ark of the Covenant and the Garden of Eden, excuse me. Contrary to popular opinion and many a Christmas card, the Bible's cherubim are ferocious creatures, hybrid beings not found in nature, but probably informed from Near Eastern iconography. They would be scary, servicing that they were guards of the sacred. That's kind of wild. Little tiny warriors. I guess that's why Cupid has his bow and arrow. Mm-hmm. At one point, God made a donkey talk.
Oh, yeah.
You know about that? So Balaam was a prophet hired by King Balak of Moab to curse Israel. He encountered an upset angel holding a sword, which distracted Balaam's donkey, causing Balaam to beat it multiple times. This leads God to grant the donkey the power of speech. The angel informs Balaam if the donkey had not veered in its path, the angel was going to kill him. So the donkey says to the person, "What have I done to you to make me beat you? Or what have I done to you to make you beat me these 3 times?" Balaam answered the donkey, "You have made a fool of me. If only I had a sword in my hand, I would kill you right now." Then the donkey says, "Am I not your own donkey, which you have always ridden to this day? Have I been in the habit of doing this to you?" "No," he said. Then the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with his sword drawn. So he bowed low and fell face down. What does that story tell us?
I have no idea.
It's just like God. Is this the only instance of an animal talking in the Bible?
I think so, yeah. But it's not the only instance of a donkey bone.
No?
No. Also, Samson slays it like 1,000 people with the jaw of a donkey bone.
He kills people with the donkey. Mm-hmm. What part of the donkey?
Their jaw.
It's like stabs or just beats him over the head?
Him. Yeah.
That's pretty brutal.
Yeah. It's pretty badass. He does a lot of cool shit, like making the temple fall on himself, but his power in his hair, kind of like you.
Kind of like me.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were about to cut that shit.
Are you worried if you ever get it cut that you'll be a bad podcaster?
Yes. Yes, I am. Very worried. I'm
Lose your edge.
Very superstitious about that. Unless I get it cut into a mullet. If I get a mullet, then I feel like I get better.
What about rat tail?
Rat tails, maybe
Tread
rat
lightly.
tail.
It's big. They're important for my family.
It's a big step. I wanted a rat tail so bad when I was younger.
Oh, me too.
My mom was like, "No, it looked disgusting."
Rat tails are so sick. It's like you'd have a bunch of little groupies that were like rat tail heads.
Yeah.
That were trying to braid it for different kids in class.
Yeah.
There's one kid, Brad, unbelievable rat tail.
Like a long one?
Yeah, he got so much like almost pussy.
Almost pussy back in the day. I feel like rat tails are coming back though.
You think? I hope so. I mean, mullets are back in a big way.
I've seen rat tails on baseball players. Maybe that was a few years ago though. I don't know if they have them anymore.
Oh wow, we call these ducktails.
Ducktails?
Yeah, we call them ducktail.
Is there a difference though? Is a rat tail maybe a skinnier version of a ducktail?
Oh, let me type in ducktail because let's see. Ducktail hair, but I mean, I don't know. It just looks like a ducktail. Just it's like that little thing at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Rat tail, yeah.
Yeah, so we used to call them ducktail. Interesting.
All right, chaps, we got any more Bible stories you want to get into? Anything you want to specifically call out? Because we do have a good interview with Dan McClellan coming up, and I think you guys will enjoy it.
No, I think you covered a lot of them. I don't have any that are popping off my head. I mean, throwing the pigs into the sea was pretty sweet. Casting the demons into the pigs and then being like, you know what, run off that there mountain. And they did it into the sea.
How many pigs?
I'm not sure. I want to say 70. 70 is a big biblical number, but I'm not sure off the top of the dome. Also, when that guy, the interview, sometimes you just got to know when to sit it out. That was one, like that dude knows so much more than I ever did. Like it's incredible what that guy knows.
Yeah.
And then he could draw on that experience right away and like just
off the
regurgitate
cuff.
everything.
Just,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Remarkably smart.
You think you name any chapter of the Bible and he'd be able to say what it was?
Oh,
I think-
easily.
I think if you're doing probably not any chapter, that would be a lot. But
I think so, man.
Any book for sure.
any book, yes.
Yeah. Okay. A book.
Chapters a lot.
What's your favorite book, Big T?
2
Art of the
Corinthians.
I was just about to say Paul's letters.
There you go.
Those are good. Obviously the Gospels, Psalms if you need a little encouragement.
Those are the ones you go to pick you up.
Psalm, yeah.
Any chapter verse you go to for a good cry?
Jesus wept.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, we're gonna get into it. Dan McClellan.
I'm a Song of Solomon guy.
What's that?
It's just
Sex.
sex and horniness.
Okay, is that Sodom and Gomorrah?
No, comparing breasts to young gazelles sprinting across the meadow.
I've always said that.
I have too.
And
Hey,
I'll
baby,
tell you
your
what,
tits look like gazelles.
nothing gets a woman in the mood like being, your breasts resemble antelopes.
Yeah, you're like a Middle Eastern whitetail.
Yeah, hell yeah. It's onyx. Okay, so here's Dan McClellan. All right, we have a very special guest on Macrodosing. It is Dan McClellan. He does the podcast Data Over Dogma that you can find where you find podcasts out there on the internet. You've blown up on social media real quick. You came across Arian's desk, actually. Arian recommended that we have a discussion with you and bring you on. So I guess I'll just get started and ask, where did you first develop an interest in biblical studies?
It was actually, as an adult, I converted to the LDS church, and within a year of being baptized, I went on a proselytizing mission. I went down to South America, spent 2 years in Uruguay. And in between getting baptized and leaving on that proselytizing mission, I realized I didn't really know anything about the Bible or the uniquely LDS scriptures, at least not as much as the people I was going to be out there with. So I decided I needed to read all of it in that year. And in the process, I just became fascinated by the history, the culture, the languages of primarily the Hebrew Bible, but specifically the Bible. And when I was finished with those 2 years in South America, I came back and decided I wanted to do whatever I could to make a living out of studying the Bible. So I went to school, got 4 degrees related to biblical studies, from a bachelor's, a couple masters, all the way up to my PhD. And have been working with the Bible translation, the backgrounds of the Bible, the languages of the Bible ever since. And it was during COVID, when we were all stuck inside, that I started paying more attention to what was on social media and saw a lot of stuff on TikTok being shared about the Bible and religion. And I thought TikTok was just for disrupting presidential campaigns from Korea and things like that. But I decided I'd see what was going on over there, what the discussions were like, and realized there wasn't really a credentialed expert in the Bible and religion who could play referee for the discussions that were going on over there. I thought that might be a little gap that I could fill in the social media discourse.
Interesting. So what's the biggest TikTok that you've had so far? The one that's gotten the most traction?
I think last year I did one on God's wife, responding to someone who was criticizing a woman who was talking about God's wife, who was actually my dissertation supervisor from the University of Exeter, a wonderful scholar named Francesca Stavrokopoulou. And so I posted a response to that, talking about how it is the academic consensus that Israelites believed that God had a wife in the earliest periods of their history. And that got almost 5 million views. Which I wasn't nearly as big as an account back then, but that was pretty surprising and also a little intimidating. My audience grew significantly following that, and it kind of made me realize that there were a lot more people in that audience that could potentially know more than me about some topic I was opining about. And so it was a little intimidating, but as I've tried to become more and more of a generalist, I've tried to take greater and greater care to accurately represent the scholarship. And I've had a handful of others that have had almost as many views, usually debunking claims about archaeological evidence for Noah's flood or for Jesus's resurrection or something like that.
Wait, so God had a wife?
Yeah. So when we look back in early Israelite history, prior to the reign of a king named Josiah, who was probably responsible for the earliest layers of the book of Deuteronomy, we have no negative references to a figure known as Asherah. You get a lot of condemnation of Asherah, which is a goddess, and it is also a way to refer to her divine image or idol, with Josiah and afterwards. But prior to that, we see no negative references. And then we've made some discoveries of inscriptions and even drawings that represent Adonai, the God of Israel, with a female deity named Asherah. And comparing these texts, and there are some passages in the Hebrew Bible that hint in this direction, but by comparing those passages in the Bible with what we're finding archaeologically in that time and that place, with some of the literature of the nations surrounding Israel, and particularly a city called Ugarit. We have a bunch of Ugaritic literature. They talk about El, the patriarchal high deity of the Northwest Semitic pantheon, having a wife named Athirat or Asherah. And so the Israelite pantheon and ideology is probably very closely related to that. And so most scholars today think that in the earliest periods of Israel's history, there was a wife that was worshipped alongside God down until probably somewhere around the 7th century BCE.
And do we know what happened? Was there a fallout? Was there a split?
So it wasn't so much a split as this king that came to the throne, Josiah, wanted to try to centralize power. And part of that meant not sharing it with other groups, particularly cultic groups, so priesthoods and temples and things like that. In early Israel, there were temples spread all around. And then there was an Assyrian king named Sennacherib who came through and destroyed a bunch of the territory. And you can read about this in the book of Kings and in the middle of the book of Isaiah, where Sennacherib shows up and threatens Hezekiah and is going to destroy Jerusalem. He ultimately fails and has to go back home empty-handed. So Jerusalem is the only major temple or cult site that survived. And so for the generations after this destruction, if you wanted to worship Adonai, the God of Israel, you had to go to Jerusalem. But then the kings who come to the throne after Hezekiah are trying to restore this worship that was going on before, which probably included ancestor worship, probably included the worship of Asherah, may have included other deities as well, but certainly included other temples and cult sites. And then Josiah gets to the throne. My opinion and the opinion of some other scholars looks around and goes, hey, I kind of like everybody having to come down here, bringing all their offerings, all their money into my city to pay my priesthood. And so suddenly we find the book of the law which is probably the earliest layers of Deuteronomy, which say you're not allowed to worship anywhere but in Jerusalem, and you're not supposed to worship these other gods, and you're not supposed to worship Asherah and all this kind of stuff. So we get this sense around the time of Josiah that the story changes so that you're only allowed to worship Adonai, the God of Israel, in Jerusalem with the Levitical priesthood. And I think this was just a power grab on the part of Josiah that then becomes cemented in their identity and their consciousness of their own history and background and everything like that. And Asherah and all of the other worship that was normative before gets vilified and demonized and criminalized and gets forgotten.
That's fascinating. Arian, what do you got?
Oh, I got a bunch, man. Again, bro, I'm super. I'm a big fan of you. Originally, when I found you, because I am, I'm atheist. I don't really, for philosophical reasons, believe that there is a higher power. But I'm not. I'm open to the possibility, right? So I'm not like a picketing atheist back, like you. I'm sure you came across. But so I'm curious as to how your scholastic journey has kind of influenced your beliefs at all, right? Because I'm pretty sure we all start out like wanting to learn things for a reason, and then maybe it leads us to another reason, or bolsters it. So I'm kind of curious on how that journey was for you.
Well, one of the boundaries that I've set for my social media is I don't talk about my own personal beliefs much, but I can comment on. I have a lot of colleagues and friends who have trod similar paths as my own. And there is a tendency, I think a lot of the folks who get into critical scholarship, whether the study of the religion or the study of the Bible, those that do stay within their faiths, a lot of them don't, a lot of them leave their faiths or at least stop participating. A lot of them have told me, at least, and will tell other scholars, that it enriches and deepens it, but it also kind of fuzzies it up. It makes the boundaries a lot less clear. And that's really problematic for a lot of the ways that religions function today, because a lot of religions today are very concerned with having clear and sharp boundaries, and for having clear ideas about authority, and for having clear ideas about what beliefs are appropriate and inappropriate, and particularly as religion becomes more deeply entangled with political power. I think you see that, and that frustrates an awful lot of people who study this kind of stuff for a living, because I think they see it as a not just a violation, but a betrayal of a lot of what they find valuable in the religions that they practice. In fact, there's a new book that came out recently called The Religion of Whiteness, which is a phenomenal book that starts off with this discussion about the trauma of betrayal. Talks about how a lot of Black folks have heard one thing being preached about their belonging and their identity and all that kind of stuff, but then they find another thing in practice, something that shoves them away, that distances them from the ideals that they thought were a part of this religion. And so they feel betrayed by it, and that causes trauma in their lives. And I think a lot of scholars feel the same way, and some decide to just leave, and others I think stick around hoping that they can extract what they appreciate from that experience, and also maybe influence institutions for the better. But it's definitely a messy issue.
Well, first, I love that you like set that boundary, right? Where you're like, this is the boundary I draw with social media. Because I think a lot of people won't even think to do that. I think that's really powerful. I'm definitely going to respect that. More power to you, brother.
I appreciate it.
I guess kind of among those lines, and if this is crossing a boundary, you can tell me I'll go to the next question. But if, given your expertise, what do you feel about the so-called separation of church and state? Like, because I'm sure there's a lot of like myself, I'm nowhere near as read as you, but I've read a lot of the Bible, and I feel like there's useful parts to it, but I feel like there's a lot of dogma that can be extracted from it if you're not careful. And so that's why I feel like there needs to be a separation from any kind of religiosity in our schooling. But from an expert of this, what would be your opinion, if you're willing to share that?
Well, I absolutely agree. And as a historian and a scholar of the Bible, I think you've got a variety of different ideas in the Bible, depending on who's writing these texts and what they're being written for. You have political authorities responsible for some of the texts of the Bible where they're propping up political power, and they're structuring power in favor of a monarchy or in favor of a priesthood or something like that. And then you've got other parts of the Bible, and you see this particularly in the prophetic literature, but also in with Jesus in the New Testament. They're speaking out against political and priesthood power. They're talking about how worship is a sin if you're turning around and grinding the faces of the poor, as Isaiah says, or if you're neglecting the widow and the orphan and the oppressed. If you do that, but then perform the public-facing duties, then that performance becomes sinful. That's something called the prophetic critique. And so within the Bible, you have people arguing from completely opposite sides. And I think that's what facilitates a lot of people trying to structure political power, deploying the Bible to serve their interests. You see a lot of people going to the Hebrew Bible, and particularly those passages that were probably composed by people in positions of power, specifically men in positions of power. And then you've got folks who might be more concerned with liberation theology, with trying to confront political power, who will appeal to Isaiah and Amos and Jesus and folks like that. So I think because the Bible can produce arguments from all sides of this, it becomes a threat to any kind of stability. And this is precisely what the founding fathers were concerned with. They were trying to establish a federal government. Now, for the most part, they thought that, we're not touching the states. We're going to let the states do what they want. And many of them thought that some kind of religion was a good moral foundation for society. But on the federal level, the idea was basically religion does nothing but cause division and divisiveness and problems, and we don't want that. We want to keep religion out of the federal government. And these were mostly deists, so they were not evangelical Christians for the most part. There were some that were, but the most powerful and the most influential founders were more concerned with Enlightenment rationalism. And they thought of reason as the main driver of what they were doing. And many of them spoke out about how if the Bible says this, that, or the other that contradicts natural law, natural religion, or our reason, the reason has to take priority. And so they would all be rolling over in their graves if they could see what a lot of people are doing with the Bible today related to religion, the notion that we should be teaching from the Bible in calculus, in public high schools and all that kind of stuff, they would be horrified by what's going on and the way that it has been leveraged to structure power in favor of certain Christian positions over and against other religions. The separation of church and state is a very clear principle that sits at the foundation of our nation, and contemporary Christian nationalist attempts to try to revise that history are profoundly misguided, profoundly misinformed, and also profoundly dangerous, in my opinion.
Couldn't agree more, man. And along that same veil, just in your experience, I guess, what has been the most, because like I said, I'm nowhere near as read as you, but I have read a lot of it, and what I do see is a lot of like bastardization of a lot of the stories and the contextualization of them. So what is like a mainstream, like one of the main like mainstream stories that you hear either weaponized, that is just like the opposite of its intended meaning, or anything like that you're just tired of, like, bro, that is not what they meant,
Well, there are so many of them. I think some of the most dangerous these days are the readings of the Bible that try to promote the idea that God wants you to be rich and God wants you to be violent. You see these all over Christian nationalism. I like Jordan Peterson, for instance, has a claim that he's repeated in a bunch of different contexts about how Jesus saying, "Blessed are the meek," isn't saying you should be humble. He says you should be a monster, but then you should learn to control it. based on this idea that the word there, praeis in Greek, which is translated meek, is sometimes used to refer to like war horses that have been broken and are that you're able to control, but they're also still incredibly powerful. And so he kind of extrapolates from that the notion that what Jesus is saying is that you need to be capable of incredible, unspeakable violence, but you also need to control it. And that's just asinine. That is entirely overturning the purpose of and I'm forgetting what it's called, on the Mount, the Sermon on the Mount. That's right. It's overturning the purpose of the Sermon on the Mount, which is precisely about saying this is what the world expects, but a follower of Jesus, the one who's going to inherit the kingdom of God, does the opposite, because the world expects one to be violent and to be aggressive, but blessed are the meek. The world expects one to be wealthy and successful, but blessed are the poor. So it's overturning all the expectations about what society wants. And so we see a lot of that in Christian nationalism, the prosperity gospel, the notion that God wants you to be wealthy, God wants you to be successful. And if you're not, it's because of some kind of failure somewhere along the way. Like the spiritually mature and healthy are rich, and the spiritually deficient are poor. And that's something that we see throughout the history of America and a lot of other nations around the world. But that demonizes poverty. Mm-hmm. It disincentivizes us trying to do whatever we can to try to correct it. And it also has white supremacist implications as well, because of the overwhelming association of poverty and different kind of socioeconomic deficiencies related to ethnic minorities, because of the systemic power asymmetries that are embedded in the foundations of our nation. Overwhelmingly, it is minorities who get dismissed as those spiritually deficient because they're poor, because they're on the bottom of the socioeconomic ladder, because they're confined to parts of a city or parts of a state or parts of the nation that are overwhelmingly poor. So I think the implications of this notion that we should be violent and powerful and successful people extend way out across all different dimensions of society.
So let me put
Arian,
on my
can I piggyback on that? Because I had a similar question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you answered this a little bit, but I was wondering, so I see your TikToks all the time, and half the time you're talking to maybe a pastor or a Christian who said something and you're like, no, this is wrong. And half the time you're talking to an atheist who said something and you're like, no, this is wrong. So I was wondering, what are the most common biblical misconceptions you see from Christians and then from atheists? And are they similar or are they very different?
I think they can be very, very different. I think from Christians, usually the type of rhetoric that I'm responding to from Christians is related either to some kind of apologetic argument. They're making some kind of defense of the inspiration, the inerrancy, the univocality of the Bible, or they're trying to defend some kind of ideology that props up their specific identity politics. And usually that's related to Christian nationalism, right-wing authoritarianism, social dominance orientation, something like that. And I think the thing that I see most frequently is this presupposition that underlies a lot of their arguments, and that's the presupposition of univocality, the idea that every last syllable of the Bible speaks from one single unified and consistent perspective and with one single unified and consistent voice. In other words, it can never disagree with itself. And if that's the case, then you can, the whole Bible becomes this choose your own adventure thing, where you can put things together and interpret things however you want to mean whatever you want, and it's all inviolable. You can't challenge the authority because it's in the Bible, and that contributes to so much harmful rhetoric. On the atheist side of things, a lot of times I will see atheists try to engage apologetic arguments, and they will adopt that same perspective. And I don't know if it's just because they're trying to pick up the terms that the apologists are using. I don't know if they think they're going to beat them at their own game or what. But that sometimes can be a problem for atheist arguments as well. But I think the argument from the part of anti-theists that frustrates me the most is the idea that, well, there are two really. One is the idea that the Bible is, the fevered dreams of Bronze Age goat herders, and this is a caricature that I see an awful lot, but it leads to this impression that the Bible is entirely unintelligent, that there is nothing of any value in there, and that there's no use in studying it. And that leads to the second thing that I get a lot. A lot of people will say, "Oh, PhD in the Bible, that's like having a PhD in Harry Potter." And the notion that the Bible comes from Bronze Age goat herders is just factually incorrect. It comes from intellectual leaders within these communities from the Iron Age and down to the first century CE, and includes a lot of the foundational philosophical concepts that drove the Enlightenment, Aristotle and Plato and Pythagoras, and a lot of that thinking can be found in some of the things that we see in the Bible. But then the notion that, well, studying the Bible is stupid, that's like, having a PhD in Harry Potter. It's the most influential text that has ever existed, and to this day, it continues to sit at levers of power over nations and states and local governments all around the world. And to think it's stupid to try to better understand where it came from, how it functions, and how people are using it today, I think it's just monumentally stupid. Like, if you cannot see value in better understanding how the Bible works, I don't think you're actually concerned for the betterment of humanity. I think you're just trying to score points for your team. So when I see that argument, that frustrates me an awful lot.
I couldn't agree more with that, but I think a big issue I see, especially like with my peers growing up, like Jay-Z has a dope line. He said the only scriptures I read were on the arms of my homeboys who got it tatted on them, right? So, but that's like a real thing, because if you delve into the King James versions, which is more often than not the official one, right? It's hard to interpret because we don't talk like that, right? We don't communicate like that. And so, as sitting in your shoes, who has dove into the original languages that was written into the translations, what is your best advice for a layman to try to understand what the hell is going on with all these books that has, like you said, is the most influential document that has ever breathed on this earth? Like, what is the layman's advice to, like, how do we figure this out?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's kind of the perennial problem. Everybody wants to, who is interested in what the Bible says, wants to be able to understand it better. And I think if I had to boil it down to my best advice, it would be to try to figure out why the author is writing and why they're saying what they're saying the way they're saying it. And that's a pretty tall order. That's not an easy thing to do. But I think if you try to keep your mindset focused on, why is this author writing this thing? Why are they saying it the way they're saying it? And that requires going into a lot of different resources frequently, whether commentaries or history books or things like that. And that's an awful lot of work. A lot of people don't want to have to do that. But I think that's what's going to help people cut through the Gordian knot of all of the rhetoric that is surrounding them regarding the Bible, because we have inherited so much conventional wisdom about what the Bible's saying that frequently that's the easiest thing for us to do, is just accept what we were raised to know it means, or what somebody out there we respect says it means. But two books that I always recommend, I get a question an awful lot: what book do I need to introduce me to critical biblical scholarship? And the first book I always recommend is one by John Barton called A History of the Bible. In fact, yeah, got a copy of it right here. The Book and Its Faiths. And this is a wonderful, pretty accessible. It's a little academic, but for the most part, it's an accessible book that most, at least high school educated people, should be able to read without too much trouble. Talks about where the Bible came from, talks about how it has been interpreted historically, and I think lays a great foundation for people if they're looking into the Bible to be like, okay, so this person is writing in this time period. This is what they're trying to accomplish with the text. And that gives you the tools and the resources to be able to answer those questions about why they're writing it the way they're writing it. And then the other thing that I recommend is usually a good study Bible. And this SBL study Bible is one that just came out last year. That's a really good one that I highly recommend. And a friend of mine messaged me shortly after I bought a copy and said, "Hey, I saw your name in it." There's a little part where they have some of my scholarship in there. I was like, I like it even more now. But there's another one called the New Oxford Annotated Bible. There's a 5th edition that uses the New Revised Standard Version, which is a translation that I think is one of the best available right now. But a good study Bible will give you the keys to be able to answer those questions about why they're writing, about who they're writing to, about what the circumstances were like at the time. And I think if you can keep that kind of interpretive lens in front of you when you're looking at the Bible and trying to figure out what's going on there, I think that will help an awful lot. But, even scholars around the world argue about what these things mean. So we often don't have clear and simple answers.
I love that advice. So if it's cool, can I pick your brain on a couple scriptures that I've always had a question about?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. The first one is John 10:34, and where he says, is it not written in your laws that ye are gods? Mm-hmm. Now, what did he mean by that? Is he calling everybody gods? Is he calling everybody the spirit of God? Like, what does that actually mean?
So John 10:34, in John 10, we've got this confrontation between a group of Jewish folks, and I think John just refers to them broadly as the Jews, and Jesus. And they say at one point, our father is Abraham, and Jesus gives them a hard time about that. And they say, "What, are you older than Abraham?" And or no, that's John. That's a different chapter. I'm sorry. He says, the Father and I are one. Mm-hmm. And they, because they've said, you being a man, make yourself into a God. And then we've got Jesus quoting Psalm 82. And a lot of people will say, oh, John 10 is saying Jesus is God. My Father and I are one means Jesus is God. And this response quoting Psalm 82 is verifying that. But that doesn't really make any sense of him quoting Psalm 82. Now, Psalm 82 originally meant something entirely different from the way that Jesus is quoting it. But in that time period, Psalm 82, which is this mythological court scene where God stands among the gods and accuses them of some crimes and then condemns them to mortality. He says, you are gods and every one of you sons of the Most High, but you will die like men and you will fall like any prince. In this time period, this was read as a reference to the reception of the law at Mount Sinai. And basically what they're taking the story of the Exodus and they're kind of merging it with this mythological court scene. And they're saying, okay, so this is about the Israelites. They received the law at Sinai, and that frees them from the power of death, and they become immortal. And basically they are gods. But then they sin with the golden calf. And then we have the sentencing that is passed. Oh, you will die like men, you will fall like any prince. So it's reading Psalm 82 through the lens of the Exodus. And so what Jesus is doing is they're saying you are a man, but you're making yourself a god. That is a stoning worthy offense. And Jesus says, hey, your scriptures, which you believe in, they cannot be broken. Call these Israelites gods. And so if humans can be called gods, why are you giving me a hard time for identifying as the Son of God? There's nothing in it at all inappropriate about identifying as divine if your scriptures have anything to say about it. And John presents Jesus as the very word of God. So he says, if you call them gods to whom the word of God came, why are you getting on my case because I say I'm the Son of God? So it's the very word itself who is claiming to be the Son of God. And that word is what made the Israelites gods at Sinai, according to their reading of Psalm 82. And so it's deflating their argument. Their argument is it's blasphemy to say that you're one with the Father, that you're the Son of God. And Jesus say, no, your own scriptures say an Israelite can be a god. So, it's no biggie. And I have, I've discussed the Christology of the Gospel of John in a number of different places, but yeah, that's one of the latest representations of Jesus's relationship to God in the Gospels, or in the whole New Testament. But I don't think it identifies Jesus as God.
Got you. Yeah, I don't know. That's one of my favorite scriptures, man. Just the whole story behind it and everything. And ironically, I got to my last one because I could talk to you for hours, bro. But so I'm gonna let these other guys get at you. But the last one, ironically, it's Matthew 10:34, and he says, "Think not that I come to send peace." I'm talking about Jesus now. "Think not that I come to send peace. I came not to send peace, but a sword." Now, we all hear. I think it's almost a clean sweep. Every religion, every atheist that is kind of well read in it, we all have like an admiration for Jesus and then Jesus' words and what he represented. This verse always struck me as odd because it's the opposite of how he's presented in the lore of who Jesus was. So contextually, what do you mean he's about to bring a sword? What does that mean?
I think most scholars would say that this is actually not. This is probably not directly from Jesus's own mouth. This is probably the author of the Gospel of Matthew putting this in Jesus's mouth, because that author is writing from decades after Jesus's death, probably around 80, maybe even 90 CE. So we're talking 50 to 60 years after Jesus has died. And one of the things that they're trying to do is they're trying to make sense of what has happened since Jesus's death to their audience, to their readership. And if they can have Jesus talk about things in a way that kind of reflects on their own experiences, that makes it more meaningful. If Jesus can, prophesy about something that has happened closer to their day, they're like, this is happening. This is fulfillment of prophecy. And it makes the experience a lot richer, and it makes the gospel resonate with them a lot more. And so in the Gospel of Matthew, you have Jesus talking a lot about peace. Blessed are the peacemakers, blessed are the meek. But you also have this idea that, the one who does not reject their mother or their father is not worthy of the kingdom. And this passage here, I came not to send peace, but a sword. And a lot of scholars would say this is an attempt to rationalize why Christians are, one, under the boot of a larger empire that is treating them very violently. And also, two, people who join Christianity frequently, it severs the relationships they have with their friends and families and colleagues. And so what it's doing is kind of putting a prophecy into Jesus's mouth about how being a Christian is going to mean there's violence around you, that your relationships might be severed, that you might be persecuted. And so it's a way to say, hey, it's okay that people hate you. It's okay that there's violence against us. Jesus prophesied that this would all happen. And that's the author of Matthew writing during that period of persecution and hatred, putting that into Jesus's mouth. Because it does conflict with most of the ideals that we find Jesus pronouncing elsewhere in the Gospel of Matthew and in the other Gospels as well. But they all kind of hint at this notion that, hey, Christians are going to be in for a rough ride. But, if, what does Jesus say? If they hate you, know that they hated me first. It's doing the same thing. It's saying, don't get upset about this. This was supposed to happen.
Beautiful. And okay, it reminded me of this last little question I had, and then I'm gonna pass it to my castmates. Yeah. It just slipped my mind. Shit. That's why I write things down. If it comes to me, I'm gonna interrupt because it's a very important one that's been on my heart for a while. But go ahead, y'all. If y'all have anything else, man.
Chaps, what do you got?
So to continue on with the last conversation, do you think that's where, from when I had studied it, that preterism, that's a bigger belief in preterism, where when the sword is there because Nero was so absolutely brutal in 70 AD, that things were ramping up, people getting crucified upside down outside the temple gates. Do you think that points to preterism, and that's how people kind of fall into that viewpoint?
I don't think that the author is suggesting that we take a preterist position that everything was fulfilled by the siege of Jerusalem around between 66 and 70 CE. But I think that is an interpretation that a lot of folks are incentivized to take, because when we look at the history from 70 CE on, and particularly from the 4th century on, Christianity's doing all right. They take over the Roman Empire. They become, the beast from Revelation, according to most interpretations. And so it's kind of difficult to find an example of this unless you go look before 70 CE. And so it's basically a way to protect the authenticity of this prophecy, because we can say nothing really like this has happened since. So if this prophecy is real, we should probably look to 70 CE as the fulfillment. So I think preterism is a way to make the prophecy true when looking at it historically kind of complicates the authenticity of the prophecy, unless we're still waiting for it to happen at some point in our own future. So I think preterism is a stopgap. It's a way to try to cover over some of the problems in the authenticity, the accuracy of these prophecies about the last days.
And your faith tradition is LDS, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you're going to study a text like the scientific method, for example, how do you put aside your faith traditions and look at the text just as they are for the determination?
Two things. One, an awful lot of practice, because my 3 graduate degrees are from 2 different countries. Got 2 of them in England, 1 of them in Canada. None of them were from LDS institutions. And if I wanted to perform adequately, and I wanted to perform better than adequately, I needed to be able to put those things aside so that they were not muddying the waters for me. But also, as an adult convert to the church, I was not raised and conditioned with a lot of the religious ideologies that a lot of people have embedded within their cognitive development. Like, I was raised to think critically about science in the world around me. So I came into the church, full on evolution, all this stuff, and nobody ever tried to disabuse me of it. And that's not everybody's experience. I know a lot of people who go into a lot of different faith traditions later on in life are often conditioned to change their minds about a lot of different things. My experience was different. So I've always brought a very different perspective to this. And I did not find it incredibly difficult to train a critical lens on these ideologies. And I've always been able to compartmentalize pretty well. So I feel I'm pretty fortunate in that regard, at least as a person of faith who is also engaged in critical scholarship.
And with that scholarship, and you looking at Paul's epistles and how he's writing to a specific church in Corinth, or he's writing to a specific church in Ephesus, how do you determine, based on those specific letters, what is applicable today and what was more seasonal or culturally relevant at the time, and what applies to us in a broader scale for the biblical context?
I have frequently said that none of the Bible was written for us. And so I think the best that we can do is look at the best thinking available about these texts and try to extrapolate them, try to extrapolate from them whatever principles might transcend those social idiosyncrasies or contingencies. And I don't think there's a way to do that in kind of like an inerrant, infallible, inspired way. I think it's a negotiation. We're always negotiating with the text, and I think other readers of the text to try to arrive at some kind of consensus about what's best. But when we look at the Pauline epistles, for instance, you look at the pastoral epistles, 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, Titus, the scholarly consensus is that these were not written by Paul, that these were written decades after his death by somebody who was only pretending to be Paul. And so right off the bat, I think that's a strike against the transcendence of whatever principles are being promoted in those texts. Now, if we see something that we agree is valuable, I don't think it precludes saying, hey, look at this passage. This is a good insight. But right off the bat, the fact that the pastoral epistles are incredibly misogynistic to the degree that they insist that women aren't even allowed to lean over and ask their husband a question during the service. I think that's the fact that this is somebody writing pseudepigraphically, someone only pretending to be Paul, is a good reason to reject that misogyny. And so a lot of people today will appeal to either 1 Corinthians 14, 34, and 35, which many scholars agree is an interpolation, perhaps on the part of the person who was responsible for the pastoral epistles. But the only other text that people can appeal to say women aren't allowed to be pastors is the pastoral epistles. So that dogma right there, I would say, hey, that's not even Paul. That's someone lying about being Paul. So I'm going to reject that. I'm not even going to take that seriously. And so I think there are ways that we can distinguish what is valuable from what is not so valuable. That's just one example. It can get a lot more complex when we look at writing to some people think that in Ephesus there were women were doing all kinds of crazy things, and so telling women not to speak was really about don't do what these Ephesian women are doing or something like that. And so I think there are more complex ways to engage in that negotiation. But overall, I don't think there's a bulletproof way to do it. I think it's all about negotiating with the text and with other readers of the text.
So how do you wrestle with that, with understanding that every part of the Bible that you read needs context? You have to understand the historical context it was written in, what it was meant to convey at that time. How do you wrestle with distinguishing between that, the text itself, and also the underlying bedrock of everything that you've studied, which is your faith, which is the most important thing in the world for you, which is your belief in this religion is governing your life and it'll govern your afterlife. And it's sometimes those things seem to be at odds with each other. So is it about just taking everything in context and knowing as much as you can about what was written, why it was written, and the purpose it was written, and then having that lead you back to what your faith is? Or there have to have been some times where you read something in the Bible and you're like, this is it's at odds from what I truly believe.
Yeah. Again, I have a bit of a boundary set up there, but I would 100% agree. There are things in the Bible I read and I just outright reject. For instance, there are imprecatory psalms. We got Psalm 137, I think it's verse 9. Blessed is he who crushes their babies' heads against the rock, which is this revenge fantasy about Babylonians. That's not something that I have any respect whatsoever for, and so I outright reject that. But my approach has always been one that gives me the ability to be able to say, don't care, not for me. And the reality is that everybody does that, whether it's about that imprecatory psalm about murdering babies, or it's about slavery. Slavery is endorsed or at least condoned from beginning to end. There's not a single syllable of the Bible that in any way, shape, or form whatsoever questions, much less condemns the practice of buying, selling, and owning other human beings. And then over 1,000 years after the Bible was complete, we got to the point where we could say, you know what? This is awful. This is bad. We're not doing this anymore. And a lot of folks who treat the Bible as inerrant, as infallible. And by the way, within the LDS tradition, there's no real doctrine of inerrancy. The doctrine is that this can be wrong. This can be errant. And so everyone who treats it, though, as infallible, as inspired, as inerrant, has to renegotiate their understanding of the role of slavery. And there are a bunch of ways that people have gone about it. Saying, oh, well, God was trying to hold the hand of the early Israelites and then the Christians and incrementally trying to improve conditions.
Wean them off slavery.
Yeah, that 100%. That's one of the claims that they make, that he couldn't do it all at once because then they would be at a disadvantage when it comes to the other nations economically. Yeah, just 2 weekends a month and 2 weeks out of the year. And Another rationalization is that the slavery of the Bible was a more compassionate, a better slavery.
I hear that all the
than
time.
the slavery around him, and that's pure and utter nonsense. Like, you can look at at all the laws. One, they're borrowing all the slave laws from the nations around them, but some of them are even more harsh than the laws from the other nations. So there are a bunch of ways that people try to get around it, but fundamentally, the fact remains that we reject that feature of the Bible. And if there is anything that is consistent from beginning to end throughout the Bible, the fact that slavery is a good thing is one of those things. And there are not many things that are consistent throughout the Bible. And so everybody has to do it. Nobody has any other option but to negotiate with the text. And so I come from a tradition that negotiates pretty radically in a lot of different ways with the text. Not so much anymore as we used to, because we kind of tied our carts to evangelicalism as a means of trying to gain access to power and authority in an American context. But we used to be pretty radical negotiators with the text. But yeah, I would say that everybody's got to do that to one degree or another, and it's all going to be anchored in some kind of exegetical, some kind of interpretive agenda. And I think as long as your agenda is not harmful, as long as your agenda is not about trying to wield power over others, I think, have at it. Do what you got to do to make it meaningful and useful to you. I think there are a lot of different valid ways to try to come to grips with what the Bible is and is not. And I am highly critical of any way that is motivated by or that results in harm coming to other people, systemic power asymmetries, further causing minoritization, oppression, violence, things like that.
Back to Arian's.
I know that doesn't exactly answer your question.
No, I hear you. I'm going to try to respect the boundaries as well. So Arian brought up earlier that the way that the Bible is written, the language in the Bible is not conducive to people in the modern day and age reading it and studying it for themselves without getting their own study Bible, or without going and getting degrees like you have and spending all that time just to understand the writings. How close have we been to a consensus, like broad new interpretation of the Bible? Is that something that has been discussed to your knowledge within the last couple hundred years?
This is one of the problems with going out and getting into way too much debt to learn about the Bible, is you become aware of a level and a type of interpretation that stands at significant odds with the popular interpretation. And something that I and other like-minded scholars have always struggled with is how to reduce the distance between those two, how to make more publicly accessible these different interpretations. And that's something that I think it's complicated by a lot of things. I am trying to promote public scholarship so that it is a lot more accessible, and so that it is not behind a paywall, because there's an awful lot of really, really great scholarship that people just can't access because they can't afford to pay $40 just to read a 10-page paper, or $200 just to read a book. So there are a lot of new interpretations of a lot of parts of the Bible that people just can't really get a hold of very efficiently, very easily. And that's one of the goals of what I'm trying to do: increase public access to the academic study of the Bible and religion. So
what's your biggest hurdle in trying to get that accomplished?
There are a handful of hurdles. One, all scholars of the Bible and religion specialize in certain things. And we have some awareness of what's going on outside of that, but we can't be generalists and be experts in everything. And so for me, trying to familiarize myself with a very, very broad range of fields and positions is difficult. And I think articulating it in a way that is easily accessible is something that I have heard that I do it better than most. But I have other friends who are trying to do, other colleagues who are trying to do the same kind of thing, and they struggle with that. So I don't think that's as high a hurdle for me as for others, but that's a high hurdle for a public scholarship. And then I think probably the biggest hurdle would be the fact that we're not going to get the reach that we want unless it is sexy, unless it is kind of tapping into some part of the public discourse that is controversial, that is sensationalist, that is something people want to hear about. And so
Michael Bay remaking the Bible. Put some explosions.
Yeah. If there aren't explosions, if there's not plenty of TNA, then a lot of people are just not interested. So that's one of the things that I have struggled with, because one side of me is like, this is my full-time work now. I am supporting a family. I got a mortgage. I got to try to make sure my videos are doing well, which means I've got to constantly be picking at the biggest societal scabs. But then there's the other side of me that knows there's a lot of great scholarship out there that I find fascinating, and I need to find a way to make it interesting to people who may really, if it's not about, abortion or the LGBTQ plus issue or Palestine or something like that, there are a lot of people who just won't care. And so I would like to make it more interesting to the public, so that we can better educate folks. But at the same time, I recognize that those things that are controversial are important, and they're controversial for a reason. And so I also want to be able to provide that information. So I mentioned before we started recording, I have a trade book coming out next year. It'll be called The Bible Says So, where I have, I think, 19 different chapters, and each one I'm basically taking a claim about what the Bible says and then responding to it based on critical scholarship. And a lot of it is, does the Bible say homosexuality is an abomination? Does the Bible say abortion is murder? Does the Bible say this, that, and the other, about things that are topical issues? But there are also some things in there that I don't think are as sexy for a lot of folks. I'm hoping to just get a little more attention, a little more light shown on those issues.
So I went to seminary before I was in the Marine Corps. I went to a place called Southeastern Seminary. It's Baptist tradition. Mm-hmm. And there's, since really the Council of Nicaea, there's been the same type of debates that have really dominated the Christian world. Which one do you think is the worst, and why is it Calvinism?
I've got to say, I try not to, like, in my research, I don't really research a lot of denominations. I stick to interpretations and things like that. But I've got to say, the folks who leave me scratching my head the most, who have identified themselves denominationally, are frequently Calvinist.
Right.
And I don't
know.
That's
what I was.
You were a Calvinist? Yeah. What is Calvinism for the people out there that aren't familiar?
I mean, basic. You can probably sum it up better than I can, but one word answer is predestination. Like that.
So everything that happens was always going to happen?
Yeah. So that you have like a partial Calvinist, a full Calvinist, and I would have said that I was a full Calvinist, where every single thing was ordained. Like, even if you dropped a feather from the top of the Sears Tower, that every single fluctuation of that flower was predetermined by God, and the ultimate end point is going to be the ground. If you're going to separate the sheep from the goats, a goat's never turn into a sheep never turns into a goat. So everything along the way is predestined.
It's like Russell Wilson when he threw that pick at the 2-yard line.
Yeah,
immediately he was like, God destined that to happen.
Yeah.
So it's okay. I'll live.
That started with the decision not to give the ball to Marshawn.
Yeah.
We all know that.
Which was predestined too, yeah.
But so go ahead.
I remember my question, and it kind of like wraps up this thing beautifully. In Corinthians, it states this: for God is not the author of confusion. And if this is not the most confusing book that has ever been written, you have to show me another one. But how do you parse those two? Because even for a biblical scholar, it takes so much time to go back and forth. And even I'm sure you'll acknowledge there's some contradiction in there. There's stuff that you're like, I just reject that. There's a lot of like fuzziness within this, doctrine of what is supposed to be from a divine being. How do you parse those two things? A very confusing document versus I am not the author of confusion.
The short answer is that Paul was wrong. Because when you look in there, there's no real way to make a rational case that the Bible is univocal, that it never contradicts itself. Like, you've got to go through all kinds of mental gymnastics to make that just possible, not even to make it probable, just to make it seem possible. You've got to twist yourself into a cognitive pretzel. And I think the what's going on here is that what the Bible says is not really a statement of the way it is. It's an argument. It's just saying, hey, let's think about it this way. And the way we go about reading the Bible today is the same. It's just, I'm just going to throw this argument against the wall. Let's see what sticks. And it usually comes down to consensus, whether groups of people agree with you or not. And this is why we have a bunch of different denominations and a bunch of different theological perspectives. I just responded to a video earlier today, Tucker Carlson and John Rich talking about how pre-trib rapture is a lie and it's caused a bunch of damage, and post-trib is the way to go. And, pre-trib, post-trib, mid-trib, under-trib, over-trib, I don't know. These are just different arguments that people are putting forth because it helps them make the text more meaningful and more useful to them. It's just part of that negotiation. And so I would say that if you're negotiating with the text, just be aware that you're doing that. I think if people are open about this is a way that we can make sense of the text. It may not be what the author intended, but this makes the text meaningful and useful for us. If you can do that openly, and you're not, like I said previously, trying to structure power in favor of already privileged and powerful groups, if you're not harming people, if you're not increasing instability and things like that, more power to you. But the notion that the Bible is inspired and inerrant and univocal is another one of those arguments. And it's an argument that is not supported by any data. It's just a dogma that a person chooses to accept. And that's as deep as it goes. You either choose to accept it or you do not, because the data are not going to come to your rescue with an argument like that.
I think that's fascinating, come from a theological background too. I haven't seen many scholars that are as open of saying, like, Paul was wrong. Like, if I would have said that in my school, they'd have thrown me out on the streets. Oh. And I think it's refreshing to realize that 2,000 years later, or 1,900 years later, that you can look at that time period and be like, well, things are drastically different and things do take place in different societies. And if Paul was writing about what we're experiencing in America, what would he say? I don't think a lot of those same things would be repeated.
Yeah. And in fact, this is a part of the discussion that I don't bring up very often, but people talk about, well, what would Paul say about today? Well, that's a question of counterfactual history that has a lot of different ways we can go into it. Like, are we just plucking Paul out of the first century and dropping him in today? Because first we got to get over him shrieking about what just happened and the fact that the world didn't end 2,000 years ago, because all of Paul's writings are written based on the notion that the world is about to end. Jesus is coming back. Don't even have kids. It's no use because Jesus is coming back too quickly.
Before 2,000 years later, will pass away.
Yeah, 2,000 years later, if we're like, hey, Paul, guess what? You were kind of wrong about that. He's got to get over that before we can ask him any other questions. And then we got to teach him English and all that kind of stuff. And so,
check out this iPhone.
Yeah. So there's so many details and nuances to those counterfactual history questions that people just don't consider. But they want to be able to transfer things wholesale from the Bible to today. They want to be able to say, look, Leviticus says it's an abomination for a man to sleep with another man. That's the conclusion. Who cares about why they were saying that or what precisely they were saying? We just want to take that conclusion and drop it into today, even though human sexuality is understood entirely differently today, even though we know much better than ever the implications of different kinds of sexual relationships. It's just so complex, and nobody cares about that because they're just trying to leverage those texts to serve their structuring of power and values and boundaries to advance their own identity politics. And all the authors of the Bible are doing the same thing. And trust me, if the people who have heard me say Paul was wrong about all kinds of different things. Had the authority to be able to throw me out on the street, they would have done it a long time ago.
With everything that you talk about on social media, what do you think the most contentious viewpoints that you have that strays away from mainstream theology? Would it be your stance on homosexuality, or is there anything else that jumps to mind?
The stance on homosexuality is one. The other is my contention that Jesus is not presented as God in the New Testament. That's one where I get a surprising amount of pushback, and I get everybody always says, "Oh, your Mormon is showing that I'm influenced by Mormonism," but I argue pretty strenuously in print and on social media that the New Testament does not identify Jesus as the Adonai, the God of the Hebrew Bible, and it's official Mormon doctrine that the New Testament does present Jesus as Jehovah of the Old Testament. So I'm flatly contradicting Mormon doctrine. But yeah, that's the one I think where when you look at my ratios of how many likes a post gets to how many comments I get, usually it's about 10% of the likes. That's how many comments I get. When I talk about Jesus not being God, that's where the ratio changes a bit. I don't think I've ever been ratioed on social media, but the closest it comes is when I talk about Jesus not being God.
Okay, I got one last question, then we'll let you go. This is an easy one, but you can find Dan McClellan, Data Over Dogma, the podcast. Find him on all the social media channels. I'll let you go with a very simple question. According to the Bible, what happens after we die? What do we see?
It's very simple.
Bunch of different stuff, actually. The Hebrew Bible says that everybody goes to Sheol, which is kind of a murky, dark region where it doesn't matter if you're good or bad, that's where you go, and you have different kinds of beings that might be there, that might be able to help you, that might be able to hurt you. So people were frequently buried with apotropaic amulets, things to try to ward off evil. So that was kind of the murky beginnings of an afterlife. And then when you get into Greco-Roman period Judaism, you get the Enochic literature and a tradition developing about divine reward and divine punishment in the afterlife. And this was primarily a way to kind of punt regarding the problem of evil. Why do bad things happen to good people in this life? Why do good things happen to bad people? Maybe God squares the accounts in the afterlife. And so we start to see this idea developing that there's punishment and reward in the afterlife. And then by the time of the New Testament, we get this concept of hell developing with Gehenna based on the Valley of Hinnom from the Hebrew Bible. And then we're also borrowing the concept of Hades from Greek mythology. But the concept of hell as we understand it today wasn't developed until well after the New Testament. We have three different concepts of post-mortem divine punishment in the New Testament. There's annihilationism, where if you're bad, you just get destroyed, you don't exist anymore. There's temporary conscious torment, followed by either salvation or annihilation. And you see this in some prominent early Christians. And even Paul seems to suggest this in 2 Corinthians, where there's a guy who's evidently been sleeping with his mother-in-law or something. And Paul says, kick him out, turn him over to the buffetings of Satan so that his spirit will be saved in the last day, which suggests a kind of universalism. And then the last kind of post-mortem divine punishment is eternal conscious torment, which ends up winning out in late antique and medieval Christianity as the main concept of hell. And then you've got Dante's Inferno and other literature that kind of further fleshes it out. So there's a trajectory, a lot of different ideas, and most of what people think of today is thoroughly post-biblical.
Okay.
I have one more question.
All right.
Do you find that people, because you are criticizing in the literary sense the Bible, that you are an atheist?
Oh yeah, everybody assumes I'm an atheist.
Because Arian and I did think that as well.
Yeah, I started following it because I thought you was atheist, and then I found out you wasn't. Like, I don't know your specific beliefs, I don't really care, but I continued because to me that shows the most unbiased thing. And like it's like, yo, I'm critiquing the truth of the statement. It doesn't have anything to do with my beliefs. That is what this world needs more of. Take your personal shit out of what you pretend to enjoy, like, and that shit. Yeah. That's why I'm a fan of what you do. Like, I'm an atheist. I don't give a fuck what you believe in. You are a great human being that's doing us all a good service. So, good on you.
I appreciate the very kind and humbling words, man. And yeah, I get that all the time, and I have made an awful lot of enemies within my own faith tradition as a result of the fact that I'm frequently critical of a lot of our history and a lot of our approaches to social issues and things like that. And then I've made some enemies among the atheist community because they feel I am, propping up a harmful ideology and institution. So I've been surprised by the fact that I have supporters and detractors across the entire spectrum of belief and non-belief. But I've always thought that if I keep that up, then it probably means I'm in a sweet spot regarding what I'm doing, that I'm not, because I've always tried to say I'm not trying to play for any team. I'm just trying to call balls and strikes. And as long as everybody's mad at me, then I think I'm doing it right.
And Arian said that you were a great person, but I would like to remind you, like Calvinism says, you're still totally depraved.
Yep. Depravity.
Yep.
All right, well, Dan, thank you very much for joining us, man. This is fascinating. Learned a lot.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Oh, I forgot to tell him about that. So after every video, he'll be like, and the fit for today is, and he always has like a Marvel shirt. And it's usually, you can tell he's like a deep Marvel fan. He'll be like, he'll give the background of who the character is, the early versions of him, which I learned from.
If there's any like parallels between the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the Bible. I'm sure there are some.
Damn, I totally forgot about that shit.
Paul talks about putting on the armor of God, and that could basically be Iron Man.
The suit?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. We were doing movies and TV shows that you've never seen on Part of My Take yesterday, like the biggest ones. And I said I'd never seen a Marvel movie, which is true, except Black Panther. I saw Black Panther on a plane.
I've never
seen. You never seen a Marvel movie?
You've never seen one either?
No.
Nice.
What?
Stay strong, Big T. Yeah.
It's just not. I never cared about like that stuff, so I never.
I'm the same way as Star Wars.
Yeah, I haven't seen Star Wars.
Never seen one of those either.
I would argue there's just so much more of like a cultural influence to Marvel than there is Star Wars, though.
I disagree.
Oh no.
Now
Yes,
Marvel.
no, what?
Well, it's not that crazy to say because if you look at
currently
the list of highest grossing movies of all time, it's like all the Marvel shit.
Right, but Star Wars has lasted 50 years.
Yeah.
Like those have been out for 10, 15.
Yeah.
That's not true at all. Marvel
around
comic
way
books
longer, yeah.
were
Well, the
like,
comic books have
that's
been
what
around
I'm-
a long time, but
well,
the
that's what I'm saying.
movies.
No, I'm not talking about the movie. I'm talking about Marvel in general. Marvel is a bigger. Well, I mean, they're both huge, but I would argue Marvel's bigger because of all of like the different storylines that it has. It identifies strictly. What's the dude's name?
Stanley.
Stanley.
Who cares?
Yeah. So he specifically wrote it. He was one of the first people who was woke. He wrote all those comics to like combat all of the social issues that was going on today. So he made Black Panther strictly because Black folks was going through what they were going through. So he made Storm. So he made the X-Men. He made sure that he empowered women and all of those things. So in all of those things, he was propping up minorities and all those things, which identified it across the spectrum of everybody who wanted representation. Like he delivered that. So that's why it was so powerful. And like they've been spinning it off for 50 years, where Star Wars has kind of just been the same story retold.
I need to see. At one point, I'm going to sit down and watch like Avengers from the start.
There's a way to watch it. Now you're in for a treat, brother, because there's a way to watch it in which
Arian's so excited right now.
Yeah, man, because it's really dope. Because there's a way to watch it to where it's like you'll watch like Iron Man, and then you'll watch like Avengers, and then you'll watch it because they tie it all chronologically, and there's a way to watch it in chronological order to where it all fits the storyline. It ends up to the big meetup with Thanos
At the end, and then Thanos does the hand thing, and he looks like Drake, and he's got one of the earbuds in. He's got the fade, right? At the end?
Yeah, sure, man.
I've consumed Marvel through memes. That's all I know.
You know what's going on.
And Clem's post, yeah.
Yeah, and Clem's post, exactly.
Yeah, I know the Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
The Snap.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen Godfather either.
Me neither.
I just read that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Have you seen the movie too?
I'm starting it this weekend. Me and one of my other neighbors have never seen it either. I just read the book, and it was fucking awesome.
See,
I knew a little bit about the story, but I didn't know the whole thing. I loved it.
I almost watched it.
Super wholesome. I haven't heard that in a very long time. Like me and one of my neighbors I haven't heard that in so long. It's very wholesome to hear.
Yeah, we have like the most wholesome. We hang out all the time, so I stole this traffic cone, and I put it in my backyard. And if I want to have beers with my neighbor, I go, or any of my neighbors, I sit out in the front yard, put the cone in front of my yard. And then next thing you know, there'll be like 5-6 neighbors that come out to have beers. It's fucking awesome.
Community, man.
That's so
dope
fun.
as shit.
I go
That's
golfing
dope as
with
shit.
all my neighbors. Like, they're awesome.
I don't know that I've ever spoken to a neighbor in my life.
See, that's what I was
you
saying.
haven't.
I was like, the South are the least friendly of their neighbors that I've been around. Like here, I know everybody on my block's names. I know their kids' names, and I've only been here for a year. I lived in my house, my previous house, for 12 years and didn't know, but like the person across the street and one of the guys that was like directly to my left. That's it.
So did they like come to your house when you moved in?
Yeah, like they stopped by and they're like, hey, we see you guys are moving in. One lady brought like a whole plate, like a casserole thing of pierogies over. Another woman brought like a cheesecake. Another dude, like they were grilling. They put like 4 extra hamburgers on and brought the burgers over whenever we were unloading shit. Like everybody just so unbelievably nice.
That's really cool. It's nice to have a sense of community like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like if I need something, like, hey, this package just got delivered. Can you put it in your house till I get home? And they'll be like, yeah, sure, absolutely, no problem.
That's very cool.
My mom used to always do that. Like whenever new people, most of our like family friends are just our neighbors, which is really nice growing up.
That is cool. That was Dan McClellan, Bible expert, scholar, social media star. Thank you to Chaps for joining us as well. Arian, Big T, Mad Dog McKenzie. We will see you guys next week. Love you guys.